J. Custon subscribed to the channel and is officially an exhibit at the zoo.
What up? I'm fucking up. I am fucking up. I thought, oh shit. I forgot. I am fucking up today. What is going on? I forgot to drop my channel. I was on the porch today for some odd fucking reason. I thought it was on there the whole time and it wasn't. I don't even have goddamn Facebook on there. What is going on? Yes, I am watching the debate. I don't know what the fuck happened. Like none of my settings saved or anything. It's insane. I thought it saved on my phone, but it didn't. Only save 2 of them. But yes, we are watching debate at 9 o'clock. I even had a goddamn picture of the shit, but you know, it's just stupid, dude. It's just everything always wants to mess up at the wrong time. Let me put the thumbnail on there. That's supposed to be on there. There's a thumbnail. Put that on there. I was wondering why no one fucking seen the shit. Jesus Christ. What else do we got? None of the settings that I had saved, because I did it from my phone. I didn't do it from the computer like I normally do. Jeez, I am way up close. Let me find this damn camera real quick. Let me back the hell your ass back, because Jesus Christ, you are huge, dude. I have my King Jigaboo Scully on. Just so y'all know, it's Jigaboo time. It's Jigaboo time. How are you all's day? Thank y'all for being here. And we're going to watch a little bit of other stuff, and then we're going to hopefully get into the stream. Maybe you can bring your ass up. We ain't got nothing special to say. You know me. I'm just up here talking. Yeah. I wanted to watch this Byron Donalds fucking conversation that they had on the Breakfast Club. I thought it was interesting. I watched a little bit of it this morning. I don't want to watch the whole goddamn thing. I just want to watch a piece of it, not the whole thing. I don't want to hear the whole goddamn thing. I'm not trying to take the whole load. You know what I mean? And then hopefully we can get into the debate.
You know he hurt some feelings today, right?
Oh, he did. He's been hurting feelings all day. He did it to a dude on was it CNN the other day too? Oh, it was magnificent. Give me 1 second. I gotta fix my shit. I'm tired of bending over. I'm like hunched over, slouched and shit. Give me a second. Woo. That's a lot better. That's why I'm glad. You know, I don't have I don't have one of those chairs that my wife has. I have an actual recliner because it just fits me better. I like my recliner. I can fall asleep in this bitch. Oh goddamn. All right.
So who's putting on this debate tonight?
CNBC or CBS. CBS. I think it's CBS. Yeah. CBS is putting on this debate today. If I'm not mistaken. What's up, Stephen Hall? How are you doing, my good sir? Oh man, this is the one I've been waiting for. That's why I put on there. It's gonna be a bloodbath. Let me see if I can put it. This is the banner that I put. Not banner. This is the overlay because I didn't get it on goddamn YouTube until now. So it's added as an overlay. I was bored at work. My wife says I say that all the time. I do. I realize I say I'm bored a lot. But yeah, that was. Hopefully it's a bloodbath. You know, that'd be cool. But yeah, we're gonna get this. We're gonna put in this work while listen to these motherfuckers talk about the. Hopefully, questions are answered. How about that? How about it's hopefully they answer a question. They don't dodge shit. Well, we haven't seen them put old tampon Timmy to the test yet. Besides that
No.
one scripted interview, other than that, they've been hiding his ass too. So I don't know, man. It should
Well,
be a good one.
Tampon Timmy has an anger problem.
Well, is it?
He's famous. He's famous for it. Did you see where he gave the finger to his own fucking constituents?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I did.
Yeah, he's got an anger problem. So I guarantee he is on a Xanax and Valium cocktail tonight.
Oh my gosh, stop it! Why you so disrespectful to old JD? It's disrespectful.
No, dude, I said Tampon Tim.
That was I meant.
Not JD.
I meant Tim. They both
damn.
they both white. It don't matter. Yeah.
The coach that never was, the combat soldier that never was.
Yeah. You know
the
what's funny?
IBF recipient that never was.
I literally sat and I was getting my hair done today because I get my hair did. Don't come at me, bro. Don't come at me, bro.
And we know you're gay. It's all right. It's all right, Tom.
I went and got my hair did, and all they was talking about was JD Vance's name, a name change. And I was like, who cares about his name? It's like, I do. I was like, for what? What does it change anything? How does it change anything?
Didn't Barack Obama change his name?
Absolutely.
What about Bill de Blasio, otherwise known as William Wilhelm?
Yeah. But I didn't even know
his name.
So he changed his name from James Donald to James David Vance. But it was James Donald Bowman to James David Vance. And I was like, well, it was changed in 1984. It wasn't like he changed his name. His mom changed his name. So,
and
take with that.
What's Whoopi Goldberg's real name?
Shit. What was it?
Karen something?
Yeah. No, it's Carol. Carol something.
No, I think it's Karen.
Is it?
Yeah.
It might be. I don't fucking know. That bitch is hideous looking to me, dog. I don't care.
Oh, yeah.
Tampon Timmy. Should I put tampon? I'm just gonna put, what's his name? Tim Walz. Hashtag CBS.
Karen, Caryn, Elaine Johnson.
Yeah.
That's Whoopi.
And then you got the bitch on The View changed her name. Sunny Hugh Hostin or whatever the fuck Hostin.
Yeah.
Her name is not that. She's using the alias as well. There's a lot of motherfuckers that use the alias. That's why I was like, I don't understand why that even fucking matters.
It matters because he's a Republican.
Yeah. And I was just, cause, no, mind you, I love my loctician to death. She does my hair the way I want. I ain't gotta worry about it. But I was like, I don't care. It's something I don't care about. I was like, but why would you care about that more than what's the policies that you want to see and shit like that? To me, that makes more sense.
He was like 6 years old.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know where that. To me, I was like, yeah, that one falls flat for me. I'm not really worrying about him. His mother changing his name. That's nothing that he can do about it. And
it's not like he was trying to hide, criminal convictions and shit.
Yeah. It was a legal name change, so you'll be able to still look that shit up by his name that he now. So it wasn't like it was a fake name change or something like that. So I don't know. That to me, sometimes these women look at the wrong. Not sometimes. A lot of the time, they look at the wrong things, and that makes no sense. Port strikes and potential World War III.
Yeah, it ain't gonna be World War. Dude, ain't nobody going to war.
You don't think so? Well, there's already people in war. So there's that.
But like Syria and Jordan ain't gonna jump on the bandwagon. Neither's Egypt. They don't even want Palestinians in their country. Why are they going to throw their people away to save Palestinians and Lebanese that they don't even want?
I don't understand why anyone does. If you can't motherfucking literally protect your country, it's not yours, or it's not even their country, but their land, not theirs to begin with. Oh, my main man, goddamn, what your name is? John the Mofo Baptist. What's going on, my good sir? How was your driving?
Driving's going great, sir. Going great. How you doing, me stretch? Spoon.
Oh, wow.
Spoon. Spoon.
Oh, wow.
All right. Hey, John.
What's
are you
up?
on the
What's
road
up,
right
man?
now?
Yes,
you
sir.
on the road
I am.
right now?
I am.
What are you hearing about these trucks getting sabotaged?
So I've been asking around. I'm not hearing anything, Mayo. When you asked me that earlier, no one said that to me yet. I can't find anybody who's heard anything about it yet. What you heard though?
I keep hearing it on the news. The trucks going into the disaster area getting their tires slashed and shit.
You're a fucking asshole.
So that might be because I'm not in that part of the country right now where the storms are actually happening at. So that might have something to do with, but I'm not hearing it out here.
Yeah. Straight asshole. You gonna bark to get this motherfucker to move. You are an asshole, Ruger. Lay on him.
What the fuck?
Yeah, I stopped at the truck stop about an hour ago and I was talking to other drivers. Nobody heard anything. Well, not where I was at anyway.
Okay. All right. Well, since we got what we got? 45 minutes to burn or 50 something minutes? 42, almost 40, 48 minutes to burn. 48 minutes to burn. Let's look at a little bit of this bullshit, right, chunk? I don't know where it starts. Okay, let's see how far it goes right here. I don't want to watch the whole guy. Oh, Jesus, that long? Oh, my God. They ain't. You know what's fucked up about these old motherfuckers? They ain't even put the chapters in. Chapter this shit, man. Nah, is it chapter?
Morning. The Breakfast Club.
Oh, shut up.
$5 million annually to
Didn't know what they were talking about.
Okay, this is what is it?
Angela Day, not Angela Davis, Angela
Tyree or Rod, whatever the fuck her stupid ass name is.
Yeah.
But I don't know why.
She was on CNN for a long time.
Yeah, I don't. The woman that was crying on CNN lately, everything y'all say, y'all calling me a racist. Like, if you don't shut up, you don't shut your goddamn mouth. Ain't no one worried about you. Ain't no one come to see you, Otis. Shit is ridiculous. But, they get away with it. So, it's females. Yeah, so y'all know who this is. And I don't understand why they gotta have they gotta bring up the half angry black woman because she's not a full black woman, she's a half breed. Why they always bring up the half breeds and the females that that other female was a half breed too. So I don't understand why they always bring these half breeds to bring controversy. Well, you know what? It sells. Never mind. I got it.
Tallahassee and then Governor DeSantis to make sure that FAMU
college, and I think that's the biggest mistake that anyone could ever push is going to college because a lot of kids ain't ready for college. I know my boys weren't ready for college, and I told them to their face. I said, "Yo, y'all not ready for college? Why do y'all want to go?" Luckily, my oldest son said, "Nah, I ain't doing it." But my second son said, "You know what? I'm gonna try it out. I'm gonna give it the old college try." And he ain't fell out or nothing, but he realized that it's not for him. College is not for everyone. Just like the military is not for everyone. Just like fucking working at McDonald's is not for everyone. And to just say that just throw everyone into college to me is just a bad look. Especially the ways they're being taught these days, it's just not a good look. Period. I mean, if you ask me, what do you think, Mayo and John the Baptist?
Well, this disparity she's talking of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I tuned her out one time.
They're shooting far above their weight since they only educate 3% of the students in the United States.
Absolutely.
So funding wise, they're shooting way above their weight.
I agree because you know what? I had all the funding I could think of when I went to college, and I hated. I hated. I was going there for a purpose, right? If you're not going there for a purpose, there's no point of you being there, especially at a D1 or any one of these high ranking colleges, because you're just wasting. You're just throwing money in the toilet and flushing that bitch. When my purpose was gone, I didn't want to be in college no more. So, I mean, luckily I was allowed to get out of it without paying anything because I was on scholarship. But it was just a point. Once your purpose is gone, they tell you can't play, you can't do this. So I was just going. The only reason why I went to college was to play football. That was it. That was the only thing I wanted to do. And then when that was,
and get laid, yeah.
Well, you can get laid anywhere. That the pussy wasn't that much. Because I was still drunk on the dean's list, and so pussy, and then that's just extracurricular activities. But but my whole thing was to play football. If you don't have a purpose, if you have a purpose to go be a doctor or a dentist or any one of those high paying skill jobs and shit that most people don't even fathom to be, even nursing, even though nursing is a 2-year degree. Nowadays, I just don't see the point in going to a 4-year college. Go to a goddamn, go be an electrician, a goddamn something. Art. It just doesn't make sense to waste all that goddamn money, to me personally, especially if you're the one paying for it. Oh no. Yeah. If you spending someone else's money, cool. I'm with you on that one. Spend their money. But if it's on you to do everything, to me, it's no point in going to college. Especially if you don't have a purpose to go. John Baptist, you got anything?
Yeah. I'm kind of with you on this one a little bit. I'm all for education, but I don't think everybody needs formal education. I don't think everybody needs a 4-year degree or a master's or a PhD.
Mm-hmm.
I think we focus too much. I think since we moved from industrial to technology, we got on this kick. Everybody has to go to school. Telling your kids everybody got to go to a 4-year school, and it's actually sending a group of kids to school to try to get to school they don't qualify for. And then with this with the DI stuff, you're actually getting kids in schools that don't qualify for, and they're struggling in these schools. You're not doing those kids any service, any justice by sending them to a school they don't qualify for, expecting them to work on a level that they can't work up on. When some of these kids should have went to trade school.
Oh no.
But that's just my opinion. I know I'm the less educated on the panel, so
no.
Well, no, they need to bring back the basic education standard to go to college.
Yep.
Oh shit.
Most first years now are spent in 0-level classes.
Yeah.
And kids are having to get back to where they should have entered the school with in the first place. They're relearning high school shit.
Yeah, the remedial courses that they got to take before they start the regular shit. And that's just another way to crowdfund money. That's what that's called.
Yeah. And you said
money.
And you said it yourself. You went to school. You just want to play football.
That's it. That's the only reason I went.
A lot of these schools, these football schools, and then they pick up these kids. They don't want education. They just want to play sports. What they should do is create a curriculum that helps them to deal with sports and life after sports.
Yeah.
And then make it put it in such a way where they can get, I don't know, qualify for something once they graduate their program. But to have a kid going to school,
give those scholarships to people that can actually do the work.
So those kids are not.
Go ahead, gentlemen.
Like Uncle Tom was saying though, a lot of those kids is going to school just to play sports. They don't care about doing the work.
Well,
they just want the chance to play football.
Don't put them in college.
Yeah, good luck.
My thing is separate college football from college.
Ooh, that's more of a controversy right there.
But that's what they should do. They should separate college football. Actually, you can be attached to the college, right?
Mm-hmm.
Meaning that Auburn's football team still gonna be Auburn's football team. But when you go to Auburn football, you're going to Auburn's football. You're not actually attached to the school. Make that work.
That ain't gonna work. I mean,
No.
Think about it.
The NFL.
Think about it. Think about it before you shoot it down.
The NFL.
Okay?
That's literally what it would turn into.
Well, you are. It's already. Hold on. You are late on that, Mayo. It's already happening right now.
That's true.
With this, what they call it? What they call that? When the kids get paid now?
NIL.
They open it up to actual athletes who are scholarly and let them play the game.
It wouldn't be enough.
Yes, it would.
You got to remember, some of these, even like
John,
go ahead.
Hundreds of people go for those scholarships every year for one position at one school. There would be more than enough.
But Mayo, how many would be D1? Because you got to remember, I'm talking about like D1 talent, super football school talent. It's not that many kids gonna fill up the rosters.
Yeah, but John, the problem is, right? You're talking about 1/10 of a second differences on the 40 are separating these kids.
Okay.
And that's between getting a scholarship and not getting a scholarship. That's how close athletics are in competition. Would you? I doubt you'd even have a noticeably slower game.
So let me ask you a question. It's gonna sound racist. Let's say outdated. Are your best athletes? Are your smartest people?
No, not well. In these days, sure, I will agree. These days, I would say yes. I would say yes in these days because.
Okay, so how long has it been that way? Then I'm not going to disagree. I just want to find how long you think it's been that way.
I think the people that are the students that are going to school right now, they've been because most of them leave regular schools and go to private schools to play. If you really want to think about it, and I can't speak to it like I want to because simple fact is I don't know majority of it, but the kids where I'm at right now, I wouldn't say that these are the creme de la creme, but we already know the athletes are the dumb ones. But the ones that end up staying in the college and actually can get on the field and play, those ones usually are the smarter of the bunch.
But are they the first ones to get picked up if that kid can stay qualified grade wise?
No. Because talent will always outweigh school.
And that doesn't pay off. See, the reason stupidity reigns supreme is because intelligence doesn't pay off.
Well, so intelligence pays okay. So intelligence pays off when it comes to. No,
you don't need none to get. You don't need none to get a fucking D1 scholarship, John.
No. I'm not. I'm agreeing. I'm saying the intelligence. I'm disagreeing with you in the sense that intelligence pays off, just not in football.
Okay.
Because you're smart. I'm telling you.
Basketball either.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
Level sport.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm not disagreeing with you on that either. What I'm disagreeing with is when you say intelligence doesn't pay off. I'm saying intelligence does pay off. You just gotta get intelligent lanes. Sports are sports.
Ruck said students don't bring in dollars into the university. Well, that's okay. You're right and wrong at the same time, which is weird because there's a lot of smart motherfuckers out here that bring money into this shit, and it's weird how it happens. But like I said, the students nowadays are a different breed than when we were in school.
I would agree. I would give you that one
because. Well, I want to say majority, but I just don't know the numbers. But a lot of these kids, they're pushing college before they're pushing athleticism.
I want that.
But that's what I see. Like I said, majority of these kids out here, they're trying to get these deals, and these deals is what's keeping their head on straight because they know after high school I can be in high school I can be a millionaire. In high school I can start having money if I'm just intelligent enough to and be able to play and get these deals in the NIL deals from college.
Yeah, but dude, let's not be dishonest here.
Okay.
They get a pass in high school at a lot of these schools, just like they do in college.
Well, the schooling
academically
is different. It's not like they're getting a pass. It's
yes,
just
they are, sir.
No. Listen to me, because schooling is different, and I've only learned that because I speak to majority of teachers that teach right now, because most of them there's a lot of football of them that come out here and try to coach football, and they're like, look, it's so easy to pass school right now. It's so easy to get on school right now where I'm at, where these kids are at, because they're damn near giving them the answer. If you can pay attention to simple bullshit, they give you the answers before you even leave class. Like, most of them don't even want to give homework nowadays. A lot of schools are like this, that they don't want to send the kids home with homework.
And do you want to continue to support this way, or do you want to do something better?
It's not going to change, is what I'm telling you. It has nothing to do with the kids. It has everything to do with the adults that's doing the teaching. And
well, it's always been the adults giving these kids passes.
Well, you can call it a pass. I call it the future teaching. That's how they teaching these days. And I guarantee you, if you ask
it's not teaching.
Yeah, sure. If you ask Steven, he'll tell you the same thing. It's just a curriculum nowadays. The curriculum, I think, is very subpar, and I've been saying that for a while. But again, technically, I don't see anything changing in the near future. Even in the distant future.
Then the future is lost.
Not necessarily, because most of the shit that you learn through experience any goddamn way.
Not when you can't add, sir.
Well, then Mayo's right. Then Mayo is right. Then Mayo is right, because a lot of these kids ain't getting no experience either in life.
That's not true either.
We actually, no. If you actually look at the way we're that was a time we raised kids to be adults by the time they was, let's say, 15, 16.
Sure.
We're now think about this. We now can carry our kids on our insurance to they're 26.
Sure, that's insurance. It has nothing to do with them having knowledge.
What I'm saying to you though, we're making kids adults at an older and older age.
Sure.
So
I'm not disagreeing with that part. If Mayo is actually saying is right, because if they don't get the experience and they don't get the education, then we're really screwed. Because we're treating them. How do you know they're not getting experience just because they're learning a different way?
Because they're not out doing shit.
Well, they are doing shit. They're doing the dumbest shit out there. Think about if you want to look at shit from goddamn let's say millennials generation, where it was gang banging before education, and that was a big thing out in these streets in the late 80s, and the 90s. Gang banging was every damn thing to everyone, every black child that I know.
Everyone, not every.
Majority of black kids wanted to gang bang.
Not majority. That's a lie.
Absolutely majority, because that was the coolest thing back in the day. So stop it.
It was not.
It was. Why?
It's not the majority. No, it's not the majority.
It was literally a majority. Everyone wanted to be a part of a fucking crew, no matter if there was gang banging crew or a crew.
Okay, a crew. Okay.
And that comes from a time when 75% of black kids had a fucking record, Tom. Was that good for them? Was it good for their future?
But guess what? Guess what they did get?
Records, sir. Felony convictions.
Experience. No one ever. Not all got it. Not all got it. Again, listen. It's less than 1% of motherfucking blacks in jail, so it can't be like they all got fucking records. That's not true. Stop. We can stop being disingenuous anytime. I know everyone wants to say the blacks are in jail all the time. That's cool. That's cool.
He said 75% of people got records. He didn't say 75% of people in jail. You had to go to jail. You had to go to jail to get a record.
Okay, what kind of record are we talking about?
Police jacket, sir.
You can get a criminal record without going to prison or going to jail.
Who said what? Man, I don't care about that. These fucking stupid ass niggas. We know niggas is dumb when it comes to that dumb shit. You do okay. So to get a misdemeanor, do you go to jail for misdemeanors?
You can plead out.
That's not what I said. You see how you? I don't give a fuck if you go to jail for a fucking hour. If you go take a motherfucking mugshot or anything like that, you go literally go in the
you go to city jail. Okay, yeah, I got you. If you talk about it, yes, you can't. It's a high chance you probably went to a city jail if you got a misdemeanor.
So my thing is that doesn't negate anything what I said, because I still said they got experience. And to think that just because you have a negative experience or experience that you can change or that you can change yourself from, it's saying that motherfuckers don't learn. And let's be honest, they do learn.
You're being disingenuous because your experience that you're saying that you want them to have
on my experience, because
you said that your experience is if they go to jail, if they get a criminal record, that's experience. I'm talking about experience of just like being a teenage kid who gets a job out of school. Or
do you think selling dope is a job?
No, I don't.
Why not?
Why do I think selling drugs is not a job?
Because
the reason why I don't think it's a job because
whatever it is, crack, whatever. Do you think it's a job?
No, I don't. I think selling drugs is illegal activity.
Cool. That's not what I asked you. I asked you, what do you think it's a job?
I said no. I don't think it's a job. I think it's illegal activity.
Okay, what's the
I don't think a job.
Hey, hold on. What is the definition of job? Does it say anything about legal or illegal?
No, I'm not sure if the definition do or don't. But just to help your case out, I would say it says nothing about being legal or illegal.
But a paid position of regular employment, sir. Being a drug dealer is not a job.
To some people, it is.
No, it's not.
It's
sir.
not. It's not
regular employment. Who's to say your employer is not the drug dealer that fronted you?
That's not regular employment.
What do you consider regular?
Regular employment wouldn't be illegal.
What do you consider regular employment?
Something that wouldn't be illegal.
Okay. Do you think paying someone underneath the table is illegal or illegal?
That would be illegal.
How many motherfuckers got paid underneath the table?
I don't care how many people do it. It would be illegal. But we're talking about selling drugs right now. Don't move the goalposts. We're talking about selling drugs. We're talking about selling drugs. Don't move the goalposts. Stay on selling drugs.
Not because you're saying legal. You're saying legal and illegal. If you want to put it in a legal category, a motherfucker getting paid.
We're talking about selling drugs. We're talking about selling drugs.
See, just because you're loud don't mean you win. The point, what I'm saying is, motherfucking painters that paint people's houses that don't pay taxes on that money, would you consider that shit legal or illegal? I mean, legal or illegal?
I would consider them painting the house legal. Why? Making money painting the house. Listen to what I'm saying. Listen to what I'm saying. I'm answering the question. I would consider painting the job illegal. What would I consider illegal is them not filing the correct taxes after they make the money at the end of the year.
I would consider it, because if the employer that's paying you is not paying you in a W-2 form or even what do they do it right now? What is it, 1099 right now?
Yeah,
it's highly illegal.
If you are a self-employed individual, it's up to you to file your individual earnings.
So does that person have a business ID? No, not business ID, but a business entity. Business name?
Drug dealer? No.
Is it registered with the state?
You don't have to be as a 1099.
You don't have to. You don't have to.
A drug dealer does.
Hold on, mate. Hold on. No, OG, don't do this right now. We know you're a drug dealer. We know a drug dealer don't sell drugs. That's the problem, because you're trying to consider a person that doesn't pay taxes on the money that they make, the wages that they make, as legal. It's absolutely no. Yes, no. You are. No, what I'm saying. Okay, I'm not gonna change what I'm saying. What I am
still not 1099, sir.
What I'm saying is when that painter paints.
Hold on. Because I consider the person that's selling drugs, no matter if it's on a street corner or in a motherfucking goddamn pharmacy, it's still a motherfucking job. No matter technically.
And Tom, you can believe whatever you want. The rest of the world ain't gonna agree with you.
Listen, I didn't say it wasn't it wasn't a legal job. I said it's a job. See, y'all keep trying to words.
But it's not a job by definition.
It is by definition a job.
No,
Yeah,
sir.
by definition,
no,
it is.
No, sir.
Absolutely.
What is the job again?
I'll read it again since you weren't paying attention.
No, I was.
A paid position of regular employment.
Yeah. That sound like a drug dealer to me.
A regular employment. Okay, define regular, OG.
Every day, whatever time period you want to pick. I mean, you get days off, don't you, John?
So I guess
do you work 7 days a week, sir? 24 hours every day, or do you get sleep and do you get off, Don?
I work 6-7 days a week. Yes.
Technically, that's the only thing we're saying. We're not saying that it's a good job to have. We're not, you know what I'm saying? We're not big enough to drug dealers. We're just answering the question.
And
okay. So the reason I want you to define the word regular.
Here's my thing, because you got to go to it consistently. So if I'm selling drugs, and if I'm selling weed, let's stay off the hard drugs. If I'm selling weed every motherfucking day, and there's not no dispensary, I'm just selling it. I'm getting in front of the work, and I got to make my money off of it. Guess what I got to do? I got to be open to customers. Guess who's my customer base? Every motherfucker out there that literally smokes weed or does wax or whatever it is that I'm selling is considerably around a marijuana entity, right? I still got to be at their beck and call when they need me.
No, sir.
Yeah, absolutely you do.
And technically,
absolutely. How do you make money, Mayo? You're at the beck and call of the people that's buying it from you. What are you talking about? That means I gotta get up. I gotta put on my clothes. Like, hey man, hey, I'm down. I'm hitting that right now. I'm down the street when I ain't even left my place.
About to pull up on you.
About to pull up on you. You don't see me. Hey, wave your hand. You don't see me. All right, damn.
And if you a plug, you run your business like a Fortune 500.
I don't know why we fighting this. This is literally
basically you distributing drugs out to people who are going to sell those drugs to bring you an income. That they proceeds on what they make puts money in their pocket and puts money in yours because they still got to re-up. So long as you got big quantities of weed, you always going to keep a stable people under you that's going to work every day.
Absolutely. OG, I know you listen well, right? So I'm not questioning your ability to listen. That's not what I'm doing at all. I'm questioning what part of the show did you start listening on?
I just came in, sir, when I came in.
Okay, so you didn't hear why we started this conversation then, did you?
What was the reason why we started the conversation, sir?
Yeah,
I'm talking to OG right now. I just want to make sure because I want to make sure we're
I told about it. You know you about to go off. Yeah.
The only thing it don't matter why the conversation starts. The whole thing.
Right. Yes.
The only reason why this whole conversation not start off, but it doesn't matter. The reason is
it does matter.
You want to define job or not a job.
Like no, I said,
we wanted to define experience because you said they're getting experience. That's when we begin to talk about experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so you brought up, you took it down this rabbit hole. Which one asked OG? Which one asked OG? What part are you supporting? What? Hold on, OG. Are you supporting? Are you supporting this meat stretcher right now?
Let me ask you. Hold on. Give me 1 second. Please give me 1 second.
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Did I say after school job or did you, John, the fucktest, say after school job?
Oh wow.
You said experience. It's when I brought up after school job because you said experience first. Who said experience? Did you say experience first,
sir? That's why I asked you. What
did you say? Did you say experience before? Did you say experience before I said after school job?
No, I said experience before that. That's why I said, what do you consider and getting an experience? And you said getting an after school job. That's what you were saying.
Correct. You said experience first, and I said after school job because after school job would be a positive experience to help kids be productive in life. That's the conversation we're going into. Which why I asked OG, what part did you start listening to? Because do you really want to support this meat stretcher right now?
I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. If you really want to go there, bro, and say, and I can just sticking to the where I'm at in the conversation. If you want to sit here and say that you can have you can learn some type of skill by doing what we're saying in the streets, yes, you can.
Thank you, OG. Thank you.
That's the only thing I was going to say.
Logistic company that you're running inside of your house, car, whatever it is. That's a logistic.
You know what? I can't deal with y'all heathens right now. I'm finna buy out. I'm finna bow out. Y'all try to make our young kids sell drugs as a good experience. I'm done with this conversation.
He's not wrong. Not wrong at all.
No one said it was a good experience or a bad experience.
I know you didn't say. I know you said it was good. That was me being dramatic.
My thing is, it's literally a logistics company wherever you start your foundation at.
I get that part, but I got you though. We'll move on. If you want that W, I'll let you have that W.
You ain't gotta give me nothing. I'm
giving you that W. You need that W. You need that W more.
It's me.
You need that W more. I'll let you have that one. You need that one.
What the fuck ever. Anyway,
my man said needed. That's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know what you have, but like I was gonna take an L on that one. You crazy? Shit, me.
You need that. You need that W.
Have you ever had?
Listen, you want our kids selling drugs? Okay, I can let you have that W.
He keep on saying that.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
I ain't gonna tell you snitch on yourself, but I'm just gonna say from experience. At 5 o'clock in the morning, let's not go that way. About 3 o'clock in the morning, hey, yo, Tom, you got a QP or a pound? You think I'm gonna say hell no? I ain't gonna sell that shit at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning?
Make that money, nigga.
I'm making that motherfucking money. What we doing? That's overtime, nigga. What we talking about?
Really don't include you way past overtime. That's 3 days worth of work for a regular motherfucker.
That's all. This is crazy.
Really want to be technical.
And that's literally why they say shit like you're what is it? Yeah, basically said it. Street pharmacist.
You know what? OG, you right. OG, you know what? OG, you tried to tell me the other day. I just need to learn how to make some arguments. Let some arguments just go. This is when I should just let go.
Yeah, because you
just let this one go.
No. You're wrong, sir.
I'm okay. You know what? I'll be wrong. I'll let y'all turn our kids into drug dealers.
Hey,
that's where you're messing up at right there.
I know. I'm still gonna keep saying it. I'm still gonna keep saying it.
Started from the first Tylenol.
Yeah, that's a fact.
Shit. I want to skip around. I just don't remember when the questions were asked. But fuck it, let's go.
Sovereignty and its protection from Hezbollah and Hamas.
Oh,
well, when Donald Trump was president, we didn't have to do anything.
I don't care about that.
So I acknowledge the stuff.
January 6th, where more than 1,200 people have been charged. In
January 6th. Sorry.
No, right. Qualified immunity doesn't apply to
you. Oh, there you go.
And that's what I'm talking about. It does not. Angela, don't do that. It does.
All right.
Hold on. What was the question? I missed the question on that one.
That's why I went back. Because me and Mayo have this motherfucking debate all the time, and not all the time. Every like 3 or 4 months, it seems like. What the fuck, man? If you don't fucking stop playing with me, goddamn it! Oh man,
you have to do it having less police officers.
Because
why would that?
Because the economic incentive of qualified immunity means that your personal act. So I said enough is enough. I'm gonna move. He went to Florida. My sheriff in Florida, the number of officers in communities policing, you're gonna have less things. Number one, the George Floyd.
And when you think about the number of police officers who would get full being shot after
January 5th, 2021, is that nobody was in DC.
Absolutely.
Because DC's rules around.
Shut the hell up.
Pause for a second. Beastly.
Jesus.
Beastly.
Christ, man. What's up?
Is that Beastly?
Yeah.
Do you want to see kids? Pause for a second.
Here we go.
Let me respond to a couple things.
Do you want to see kids selling drugs, Beastly?
Oh Jesus Christ!
Let's move on, John. Dude,
Tom just being
no, I don't,
because I
don't want to see these
don't feed the
motherfuckers.
trolls, sir. Don't feed the trolls.
I don't
I
want to
love
see these
that.
motherfuckers
You
in
with
my
that question.
John, you forget my job is to work with them motherfuckers, right? So no, I don't, because they are usually selling the shit not for really, because they parents ain't shit, and so that's why they selling the shit. So they put food on, trying to put food on the goddamn table. So no, I don't.
So let me preface this.
No,
Dumb
we gotta move on. 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 We gotta.
Let's shut your ass up. Shut your ass
That's
up.
a fact, Tom. That's a fact.
That shit today. First
That's
off,
a fact.
no one sell drugs. I just asked a simple question: is selling drugs a goddamn job? That was the only question I asked. That was it.
It's a job.
Oh,
That's
my
a
God.
fact. There you go, Beastly.
I told you to move on. Why didn't you move on when I told you to?
I mean, just like hold up, John. Just like selling pussy, that's a fucking job.
That's a job, sir.
Beastly.
They put in work.
Beastly. Let's move on. Let's move on. You ruined it.
He
You
hit
ruined
this
it
night.
already. You ruined it. You didn't
He
move
hit
on when
this.
I told you to move on.
All right,
Go ahead.
On there, it has nothing to do with the. It has nothing to do with the policies and protocols of their department.
You're right. It had everything to do with the law, constitutional law. And then here's the point. The point in the matter, he read the definition to it. I would have said, "Shut up, bitch." He fact checked you on the spot. I would have just stopped talking.
And that's the problem. Most of the people talking the loudest on this don't even know what the fuck it is.
Because it showed that she don't know what the fuck she's talking about. She just rambling on. Stupid. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what we're doing here.
And it specifically says qualified immunity in the plan, not full immunity. And guess what? Criminal prosecution immunity means to the president. It means Obama can't be brought up on murder charges for murdering 2 fucking U.S. citizens outside the country.
And what is it? Afghanistan, right?
No, Syria, I think, and Yemen, the other.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Yemen.
Okay. Okay. I can't remember. My brain hurt.
Details of what are things that matter. You gotta explain the details, or then you just talk. You just talking. If you don't explain the details, then you're just talking.
Yeah, you don't want to say that because you know that it's not true. So
if you don't want to explain the motherfucking details, you just talk. He said the exact thing they were supposed to say, and I would have also put in there, "Shut up, bitch."
Not true.
Well, she can't be wrong twice.
I don't want to argue with you. I want to explain the facts. Angela, I don't want to argue with you.
I would like to know if you've ever experienced racism in this country, Congressman.
I don't care.
Yeah, actually, I have.
Really?
Okay.
That's
you
a question.
America's a racist?
We went right to racism. You shouldn't have, nigga. This is what what Mayo? This is what I mean, and OG too. When I say Republicans are pussies. I like Byron Donalds, but I'm not gonna curtail my speech to this bitch who don't owe me. I don't owe this bitch shit. I don't even respond. Bitch, you ain't none of my constituents. I gotta answer your questions. And this is what Donald Trump.
If he's out of New York, or is he out of Florida?
No, he's in Florida. He's in Florida.
Okay.
She's not a constituent. Fuck this hoe. First off, I don't owe you an answer. I'm answering the first question that you asked me, so let me fucking answer the question. Then we can move on to, have you experienced racism? That's just, I'm not gonna fucking answer that question when I didn't get to finish answering the one previous. But she did make herself look dumb as fuck. I don't need the answer. What? I don't need the details. What the fuck you mean you don't need the details? What kind of dumb shit
They
is
don't
that?
match my narrative.
She don't want to be wrong twice, back to back. That's what that came from.
Yeah, but she just rolled herself twice.
Yes.
That shit was horrible. All right, this whole debate is about to start. Let me find it again because the one I was just on just ended, which makes no fucking sense how it just ended. There we go. Let's watch it there. Let's go to watch. There we go. All right, it ain't started yet. Fuck it.
Is this country?
No, I don't.
Okay, I believe that that's
What are we doing? What the hell happened?
You got them kids out there on the corner selling drugs. That's what happened.
Well,
by the way that
hold on, bitch. You said he was lynched last week. Lynched. I
Yes,
can't.
Sean, it started.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
I got it. I was dropping this.
A guy who's been on death row since the 80s was lynched.
Yeah. I can't with these people.
They don't know shit about that case. I guarantee you.
All right.
Never did.
Have agreed to. Questions will be directed at one candidate who will have 2 minutes to respond. The other candidate will be allowed 2 minutes for
Here we
rebuttal.
go.
Then each candidate will get another minute to make further points, with an additional 1 minute each at the discretion of the moderator. The primary role of the moderators is to facilitate the debate between the candidates, enforce the rules, and provide the candidates with the opportunity to fact-check claims made by each other.
CBS News reserves the right to mute the candidates' microphones to maintain decorum. We have not shared the questions or topics with the campaigns. The stage is set. Governor, Senator, thank you for joining us. Let's get started. Tonight, our country is facing several unfolding crises. The Middle East is on the brink of war. Americans are suffering from the catastrophic impact of Hurricane Helene, and now a labor strike as 25,000 dock workers from Maine to Texas are picketing. We're going to begin tonight with the Middle East. Margaret.
Thank you, Nora. Earlier today, Iran launched its largest attack yet on Israel, but that attack failed thanks to joint U.S. and Israeli defensive action. President Biden has deployed more than 40,000 U.S. military personnel and assets to that region over the past year to try to prevent a regional war. Iran is weakened, but the U.S. still considers it the largest state sponsor of terrorism in the world, and it has drastically reduced the time it would take to develop a nuclear weapon. It is down now to 1 or 2 weeks' time. Governor Walz, if you were the final voice in the Situation Room, would you support or oppose a preemptive strike by Israel on Iran? You have 2 minutes.
Well, thank you. And thank you for those joining at home tonight. Let's keep in mind where this started. October 7th, Hamas terrorists massacred over 1,400 Israelis and took prisoners. Israel's ability to be able to defend itself is absolutely fundamental. Getting its hostages back, fundamental, and ending the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. But the expansion of Israel and its proxies is an absolute fundamental necessity for the United States to have the steady leadership there. You saw it experienced today, where along with our Israeli partners and our coalition, able to stop
its proxies
attack. But what's fundamental here is that steady leadership is going to matter. It's clear, and the world saw it on that debate stage a few weeks ago. A nearly 80-year-old Donald Trump talking about crowd sizes is not what we need in this moment. But it's not just that. It's those that were closest to Donald Trump that understand how dangerous he is when the world is this dangerous. His chief of staff, John Kelly, said that he was the most flawed human being he'd ever met. And both of the secretaries of defense and his national security advisors said he should be nowhere near the White House. Now, the person closest to them, Donald Trump, said he's unfit for the highest office. That was Senator Vance. What we've seen out of Vice President Harris is we've seen steady leadership. We've seen a calmness that is able to be able to.
And this has what to do with Israel?
Together.
And Iran?
That our allies matter. When our allies see Donald Trump turn towards Vladimir Putin, turn towards North Korea, when we start to see that type of fickleness around holding the coalitions together, we will stay committed. And as the vice president said today we will protect our forces and our allied forces, and there will be consequences.
Governor, your time is up. Senator Vance, the same question. Would you support or oppose a preemptive strike by Israel on Iran? You have 2 minutes.
So, Margaret, I want to answer the question. First of all, thank Thanks, Governor. Thanks to CBS for hosting the debate. And thanks, most importantly, to the American people who are watching this evening and caring enough about this country to pay attention to this vice presidential debate. I want to answer the question, but I want to actually give an introduction to myself a little bit because I recognize a lot of Americans don't know who either one of us are. I was raised in a working class family. My mother required food assistance for periods of her life. My grandmother required Social Security help to raise me. And she raised me in part because my own mother struggled with addiction for a big chunk of my early life.
What the fuck is going on? No. Where is my I don't know what's going on. Oh my God.
I went to college on the GI Bill after I enlisted.
I don't know what the fuck is going on
in the Marine Corps and served in Iraq. And so I stand here asking to be your vice president with extraordinary gratitude for this country, for the American dream that made it possible for me to live my dreams. And most importantly, I know that a lot of you are worried about the chaos in the world and the feeling that the American dream is unattainable. I want to try to convince you tonight over the next 90 minutes.
I don't know what the fuck's going on. This is bullshit.
That if we get better leadership in the White House, if we get Donald Trump back in the White House, the American dream is going to be attainable once again. Now, to answer this particular question, we have to remember that as much as Governor Walz just accused Donald Trump of being an agent of chaos, Donald Trump actually delivered stability in the world, and he did it by establishing effective deterrence. People were afraid of stepping out of line. Iran, which launched this attack, has received over $100 billion in unfrozen assets thanks to the Kamala Harris administration. What do they use that money for? They use it to buy weapons that they're now launching against our allies and, God forbid, potentially launching against the United States as well. Donald Trump recognized that for people to fear the United States, you needed peace through strength. They needed to recognize that if they got out of line, the United States global leadership would put stability and peace back in the world.
This is crazy.
Now, you asked about a preemptive strike, Margaret, and I want to answer the question. Look, it is up to Israel what they think they need to do to keep their country safe, and we should support our allies wherever they are when they're fighting the bad guys. I think that's the right approach to take with the Israel question.
Thank you, Senator. Governor Walz, do you care to respond to any of the allegations?
Well, look, Donald Trump was in office. We'll sometimes hear a revisionist history, but when Donald Trump was in office, it was Donald Trump who we had a coalition of nations that had boxed Iran's nuclear program in, the inability to advance it. Donald Trump pulled that program and put nothing else in its place. So Iran is closer to a nuclear weapon than they were before because of Donald Trump's fickle leadership. And when Iran shot down an American aircraft in international airspace, Donald Trump tweeted, because that's the standard diplomacy of Donald Trump. And when Iranian missiles did fall near U.S. troops, and they received traumatic brain injuries,
shoot down an American
Donald
aircraft?
Trump wrote it off.
I don't remember.
Look,
Wasn't
our
that
allies
a Ukrainian
understand
aircraft?
that Donald Trump is fickle. He will go to whoever has the most flattery
This
or where it makes
motherfucker is
sense to him.
dumb.
Steady leadership like you witnessed today, like you witnessed in April. Both Iranian attacks were repelled. Our coalition is strong, and we need.
Who shot it down, Mayo? You said Ukraine. I mean, who shot it down?
Senator Vance, the U.S. did have a diplomatic
Ukrainian
deal with
airliner
Iran
that
to
Iran shot
temporarily
down.
pause parts of its nuclear program, and President Trump did exit that deal. He recently said, just 5 days ago, the U.S. must now make a diplomatic deal with Iran because the consequences are impossible. Did he make a mistake? You have 1 minute.
Well, first of all, Margaret, diplomacy is not a dirty word, but I think that's something that Governor Walz just said is quite extraordinary. You yourself just said Iran is as close to a nuclear weapon today as they have ever been. And Governor Walz, you blame Donald Trump. Who has been the vice president for the last 3.5 years? And the answer is your running mate, not mine. Donald Trump consistently made the world more secure. Now, we talk about what the sequence of events that led us to where we are right now, and you can't ignore October the 7th, which I appreciate Governor Walz bringing up. But when did Iran and Hamas and their proxies attack Israel? It was during the administration of Kamala Harris. So Governor Walz can criticize Donald Trump's tweets, but effective, smart diplomacy and peace through strength is how you bring stability back to a very broken world. Donald Trump has already done it once before. Ask yourself at home, when was the last time, I'm 40 years old, when was the last time that an American president didn't have a major conflict break out? The only answer is during the 4 years that Donald Trump was president.
Gentlemen, we have a lot to get to. Nora?
Margaret, thank you. Let's turn now to Hurricane Helene. The storm could become one of the deadliest on record. More than 160 people are dead and hundreds more are missing. Scientists say climate change makes these hurricanes larger, stronger, and more deadly because of the historic rainfall. Senator Vance, according to CBS News polling, 7 in 10 Americans and more than 60% of Republicans under the age of 45 favor the U.S. taking steps to try and reduce climate change. Senator, what responsibility would the Trump administration have to try and reduce the impact of climate change? I'll give you 2 minutes.
Sure. So first of all, let's start with the hurricane, because it's an unbelievable, unspeakable human tragedy. I just saw today actually a photograph of 2 grandparents on a roof with a 6-year-old child, and it was the last photograph ever taken of them because the roof collapsed and those innocent people lost their lives. And I'm sure Governor Walz joins me in saying our hearts go out to those innocent people, our prayers go out to them, and we want as robust and aggressive as a federal response as we can get to save as many lives as possible, and then of course afterwards to help the people in those communities rebuild. I mean, these are communities that I love. Some of them I know very personally in Appalachia, all across the Southeast. They need their government to do their job. And I commit that when Donald Trump is president again, the government will put the citizens of this country first when they suffer from a disaster. And Nora, you asked about climate change. I think this is a very important issue. Look, a lot of people are justifiably worried about all these crazy weather patterns. I think it's important for us, first of all, to say, Donald Trump and I support clean air, clean water. We want the environment to be cleaner and safer. But one of the things that I've noticed some of our Democratic friends talking a lot about is a concern about carbon emissions, this idea that carbon emissions drives all of the climate change. Well, let's just say that's true, just for the sake of argument, so we're not arguing about weird science. Let's just say that's true. Well, if you believe that, what would you want to do? The answer is that you'd want to reshore as much American manufacturing as possible, and you'd want to produce as much energy as possible in the United States of America, because we're the cleanest economy in the entire world. What have Kamala Harris's policies actually led to? More energy production in China, more manufacturing overseas, more doing business in some of the dirtiest parts of the entire world. And when I say that, I mean the amount of carbon emissions they're doing per unit of economic output. So if we actually care about getting cleaner air and cleaner water, the best thing to do is to double down and invest in American workers and the American people. And unfortunately, Kamala Harris has done exactly the opposite.
Governor Walz, you have 2 minutes to respond.
Well, we got close to an agreement because all those things are happening. Look, first of all, it is a horrific tragedy with this hurricane. And my heart goes out to the folks that are down there in contact with the governors. I serve as chair of the Council of Governors as we work together on these emergency managements. Governors know no partisanship. They work together. So all of the governors and the emergency responders are on the ground. Those happen on the front end. The federal government comes in, makes sure they're there to that we recover. But we're still in that phase where we need to make sure that they're staying there, staying focused. Now, look, coming back to the climate change issue, there's no doubt this thing roared onto the scene faster and stronger than anything we've seen. Senator Vance has said that there's
That's a lie.
Donald Trump called it a hoax and then joked that these things would make more beachfront property to be able to invest in. What
and the fuck? Oh my God, shit gonna piss me the fuck off.
we've seen out of the Harris administration now, the Biden-Harris administration, is we've seen this investment. We've seen massive investments, the biggest in global history that we've seen in the Inflation Reduction Act, has created jobs all across the country. 2,000 in Jeffersonville, Ohio, taking the EV technology that we invented and making it here. 200,000 jobs across the country. The largest solar manufacturing plant in North America, Minnesota. But my farmers know climate change is real. They've seen 500-year droughts, 500-year floods back to back. But what they're doing is adapting, and this has allowed them to tell me, look, I harvest corn, I harvest soybean, and I harvest wind. We are producing more natural gas and more oil at any time than we ever have. We're also producing more clean energy. So the solution for us is to continue to move forward, that climate change is real. Reducing our impact is absolutely critical, but this is not a false choice. You can do that at the same time you're creating the jobs that we're seeing all across the country. That's exactly what this administration has done. We are seeing us becoming an energy superpower for the future, not just the current. And that's what absolutely makes sense. And then we start thinking about how do we mitigate these disasters?
Thank you. Senator, I want to give you an opportunity to respond there. The governor mentioned that President Trump has called climate change a hoax. Do you agree?
Well, look, what the president has said is that if the Democrats, in particular Kamala Harris and her leadership, if they really believe that climate change is serious, what they would be doing is more manufacturing and more energy production in the United States of America, and that's not what they're doing. So clearly, Kamala Harris herself doesn't believe her own rhetoric on this. If she did, she would actually agree with Donald Trump's energy policies. Now, something Governor Walz said I think is important to touch upon, because when we talk about clean energy, I think that's a slogan that often the Democrats will use here. I'm talking, of course, about the Democratic leadership. And the real issue is that if you're spending hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars of American taxpayer money on solar panels that are made in China, number one, you're going to make the economy dirtier. We should be making more of those solar panels here in the United States of America. Some of them are, Tim, but a lot of them are being made overseas in China, especially the components that go into those solar panels. So if you really want to make the environment cleaner, you've got to invest in more energy production. We haven't built a nuclear facility, I think, one in the past 40 years.
Senator.
Natural gas, we got to invest more in it. Kamala Harris has done the opposite. That's raised energy prices and also meant that we're doing
Senator,
worse by the climate.
your time is up. Governor, would you like to respond?
Well, look, we're producing more natural gas than we ever have. There's no moratorium on that. We're producing more oil. But the folks know, and like I said, again, these are not liberal folks. These are not folks that are Green New Deal folks. These are farmers that have been drought one year, massive flooding the next year. They understand that it makes sense. Look, our number one export cannot be topsoil from erosion from these massive storms. We saw it in Minnesota this summer. And thinking about how do we respond to that, we're thinking ahead on this. And what Kamala Harris has been able to do in Minnesota, we're starting to weatherproof some of these things. The infrastructure law that was passed allows us to think about mitigation in the future. How do we make sure that we're protecting by burying our power lines? How do we make sure that we're protecting lakefronts and things that we're seeing more and more of? But to call it a hoax and to take the oil company executives to Mar-a-Lago, say, give me money for my campaign, and I'll let you do whatever you want. We can be smarter about that. And an all above energy policy is exactly what she's doing, creating those jobs right here.
Governor, your time is up. The overwhelming consensus among scientists is that the Earth's climate is warming at an unprecedented rate. Margaret.
Thank you, Nora. We're going to turn now to immigration. The crisis at the U.S.-Mexico border consistently ranks as one of the top issues for American voters. Senator Vance, your campaign is pledging to carry out the largest mass deportation plan in American history and to use the U.S. military to do so. Could you be more specific about exactly how this will work? For example, would you deport parents who have entered the U.S. illegally and separate them from any of their children who were born on U.S. soil? You have 2 minutes.
So first of all, Margaret, before we talk about deportations, we have to stop the bleeding. We have a historic immigration crisis because Kamala Harris started and said that she wanted to undo all of Donald Trump's border policies. 94 executive orders suspending deportations, decriminalizing illegal aliens, massively increasing the asylum fraud that exists in our system. That has opened the floodgates. And what it's meant is that a lot of fentanyl is coming into our country. I had a mother who struggled with opioid addiction and has gotten clean. I don't want people who are struggling with addiction to be deprived of their second chance because Kamala Harris let in fentanyl into our communities at record levels. So you've got to stop the bleeding. You've got to re-implement Donald Trump's border policies, build the wall, re-implement deportations. And that gets me to your point, Margaret, about what do we actually do? So we've got 25 million illegal aliens who are here in the country. What do we do with them? I think the first thing that we do is we start with the criminal migrants. About 1 million of those people have committed some form of crime in addition to crossing the border illegally. I think you start with deportations on those folks. And then I think you make it harder for illegal aliens to undercut the wages of American workers. A lot of people will go home if they can't work for less than minimum wage in our own country. And by the way, that'll be really good for our workers who just want to earn a fair wage for doing a good day's work. And the final point, Margaret, is you ask about family separation. Right now in this country, Margaret, we have 320,000 children that the Department of Homeland Security has effectively lost. Some of them have been sex trafficked. Some of them hopefully are at homes with their families. Some of them have been used as drug trafficking mules. The real family separation policy in this country is unfortunately Kamala Harris's wide open southern border. And I'd ask my fellow Americans to remember when she came into office, she said she was going to do this. Real leadership would be saying, you know what, I screwed up. We're going to go back to Donald Trump's border policies. I wish that she would do that. It would be good for all of us.
Governor, do you care to respond to any of those specific allegations, including that the vice president is, quote, letting in fentanyl and using kids as drug mules, among other things? Children.
The drug mule is not true, but I will say about this about the fentanyl, because this is a crisis of this, the opioid crisis. And the good news on this is the last 12 months saw the largest decrease in opioid deaths in our nation's history. 30% decrease in Ohio, but there's still more work to do. But let's go back to this on immigration. Kamala Harris was the attorney general of the largest state and border state in California.
What do they got to do with
She's the only person
immigration?
in this race who prosecuted transnational gangs for human trafficking and drug interventions.
What do they got to do about
we
now?
all want to solve this. Most of us want to solve this, and that is the United States Congress. That's the Border Patrol agents. That's the Chamber of Commerce. That's most Americans out here. That's why we had the fairest and the toughest bill on immigration that this nation's seen. It was crafted by a conservative senator from Oklahoma, James Lankford. I know him. He's super conservative, but he's a man of principle, wants to get it done. Democrats and Republicans worked on this piece of legislation. The Border Patrol said, this is what we need in here. These are the experts. And the Chamber of Commerce and the Wall Street Journal said, pass this thing. Kamala Harris helped get there.
Chamber of
1,500 new
Commerce.
border agents.
Stop it.
Detection for drugs.
Chamber of Commerce just wants
DOJ
cheap
money
labor.
to speed up these the adjudications on this, just what America wants. But as soon as I was getting ready to
we don't
pass and
want
actually
it. We
tackle
don't want them
this,
here.
Donald Trump said no, told them to vote against it because it gives him a campaign issue. It gives him to, what would Donald Trump talk about if we actually did some of these things?
Well,
and they need to be done by the
sit
legislature. You can't just do this through the executive branch. So look, we have the options to do this. Donald Trump had 4 years. He had 4 years to do this. And he promised you, America, how easy it would be. I'll build you a big, beautiful wall, and Mexico will pay for it. Less than 2% of that wall got built, and Mexico didn't pay a dime. But here we are again, 9 years after he came down that escalator, dehumanizing people and telling them what he was going to do. As far as the deportation plan, at one point, Senator Vance said it was so unworkable to be laughable. So that's where we're at. Pass the bill, she'll sign it.
Governor, your time is up. Senator, the question was, will you separate parents from their children, even if their kids are U.S. citizens? You have 1 minute.
Margaret, my point is that we already have massive child separations thanks to Kamala Harris's open border. And I didn't accuse Kamala Harris of inviting drug mules. I said that she enabled the Mexican drug cartels to operate freely in this country. And we know that they use children as drug mules, and it is a disgrace, and it has to stop. Look, I think what Tim said just doesn't pass the smell test. For 3 years, Kamala Harris went out bragging that she was going to undo Donald Trump's border policy. She did exactly that. We had a record number of illegal crossings. We had a record number of fentanyl coming into our country. And now that she's running for president, or a few months before, she says that somehow she got religion and cared a lot about a piece of legislation. The only thing that she did when she became the vice president, when she became the appointed border czar, was to undo 94 Donald Trump executive actions that opened the border. This problem is leading to massive problems in the United States of America. Parents who can't afford health care, schools that are overwhelmed. It's got to stop, and it will when Donald Trump is president again.
Senator, your time is up. Governor, what about our CBS News polling, which does show that a majority of Americans, more than 50%, support mass deportations?
Look, we fix this issue with a bill that is necessary. But the issue on this is what happens when you don't want to solve it. You demonize it. And we saw this. And Senator Vance, and it surprises me on this, talking about and saying, I will create stories to bring attention to this. That vilified a large number of people who were here legally in the community of Springfield. The Republican governor said, it's not true. Don't do it. There's consequences for this. There's consequences. We could come together. Senator Langford did it. We could come together and solve this if we didn't let Donald Trump continue to make it an issue. And the consequences in Springfield were the governor had to send state law enforcement to escort kindergartners to school. I believe Senator Vance wants to solve this, but by standing with Donald Trump and not working together to find a solution, it becomes a talking point. And when it becomes a talking point like this, we dehumanize and villainize other human beings.
Tim,
Governor, your time is up. Senator, I'll give you 1 minute, but let me just ask you the question first. The governor has made the point, and I think as a sitting lawmaker, you know that Congress controls the purse strings and any funding.
Bitch, what are you doing?
You have said repeatedly that Donald Trump would, through executive action, solve this. Do you disagree that Congress controls the purse strings and would need to support many of the changes that you would actually want to implement? You have 1 minute.
Look, Margaret, first of all, the gross majority of what we need to do at the southern border is
I thought
just
he got 2
empowering
minutes
law
for a new
enforcement
question.
to do their job. I've been to the southern border more than our borders are. Kamala Harris has been, and it's actually heartbreaking because the Border Patrol agents, they just want to be empowered to do their job. Of course, additional resources would help, but most of this is about the president and the vice president empowering our law enforcement to say, if you try to come across the border illegally, you've got to stay in Mexico, you've got to go back through proper channels. Now, Governor Walz brought up the community of Springfield, and he's very worried about the things that I've said in Springfield. Look, in Springfield, Ohio, and in communities all across this country, you've got schools that are overwhelmed. You've got hospitals that are overwhelmed. You have got housing that is totally unaffordable because we brought in millions of illegal immigrants to compete with Americans for scarce homes. The people that I'm most worried about in Springfield, Ohio, are the American citizens who have had their lives destroyed by Kamala Harris's open border. It is a disgrace, Tim. And I actually think, I agree with you. I think you want to solve this problem, but I don't think that Kamala Harris does.
Senator, your time is up. Governor, you have 1 minute to respond.
Yeah, well,
What do you mean?
It is law enforcement that asked for the bill. They helped craft it. They're the ones that supported it. That's because they know we need to do this.
1,500 border
Look,
agents ain't gonna
issue
do
of
shit.
Continuing to bring this up, of not
When the
dealing
ones
with it,
there making
of
sandwiches
blaming
for fucking
migrants
illegals for their
everything.
trip.
On housing, we could talk a little bit about Wall Street speculators buying up housing and making them less affordable, but it becomes a blame. Look, this bill also
We go with this
gives
Wall
the money
Street shit.
necessary to adjudicate. I agree. It should not take 7 years for an asylum claim to be done. This bill gets it done in 90 days. Then you start to make a
rock
difference
hasn't
in the
bought
law.
one
You
home.
start to adhere to what we
Hell
know,
no.
American principles. I don't
90
talk about my
days
favorite
for an
God,
asylum
but
claim?
Matthew
No.
25:40 talks about to the least amongst us, you do unto me. I think that's true of most Americans. They simply want order to it. This bill does it. It's funded. It's supported by the people who do it. And it lets us keep our dignity about how we treat other people.
Thank you, Governor.
Fuck
And
off.
just to clarify for our viewers, Springfield, Ohio does have a large number of Haitian migrants who have legal status, temporary protected status.
Well,
Nora?
Margaret, but
Thank you.
Senator, we have so
of
much
course.
to get to.
Margaret,
Thank
I
you,
think it's
Nora.
important
We're
because
gonna turn out of the
debate-
economy. Thank
Margaret, the rules were that
The
you guys
economy,
weren't going to
we're-
fact check, and since you're fact checking me, I think it's important to say what's actually going on. So there's an application called the CBP One app, where you can go on as an illegal migrant, apply for asylum or apply for parole, and be granted legal status at the wave of a Kamala Harris open border wand. That is not a person coming in, applying for a green card and waiting for 10 years. That
Thank
is
you,
the
Senator.
facilitation of illegal immigration, Margaret, by
Thank
our
you,
own
Senator, for
leadership.
describing the legal process.
laws-
We have
Kamala
so much
Harris
to get
opened up
to,
that
Senator.
pathway.
Those
We have
laws
so
have been on
much-
the books since 1990.
Thank you, gentlemen.
The
We
CBP
wanna have-
One app has not been on the books since 1990. It's something that Kamala Harris created, Margaret.
Gentlemen, the
Keep
audience
talking.
can't hear you because
Keep
your
fucking
microphone's
talking.
not.
Fuck
We
'em.
have so much we want to get to. Thank you for explaining the legal
I'm
process.
so this is why I don't like
The
these
economy
fucking
is a
debates,
top
man. This
concern
is
for
lopsided
voters. Each of
battlefield
your campaigns
bullshit.
has released an economic plan. So let's talk about the specifics. Governor Walz, Vice President Harris unveiled a plan that includes billions in tax credits for manufacturing, housing, and a renewed child tax credit. The Wharton School says your proposals will increase the nation's deficit by $1.2 trillion. How would you pay for that without ballooning the deficit? Governor, I'll give you 2 minutes.
Yeah, thank you. And Kamala Harris and I do believe in the middle class because that's where we come from. We both grew up in that. We understand. So those of you out there listening tonight, you're hearing a lot of stuff back and forth, and it's good. It's healthy. That's what this is supposed to happen. You should be listening. How's this going to impact me? The bold forward plan that Kamala Harris put out there is talking about this housing issue. The one thing is there's 3 million new houses proposed under this plan with down payment assistance on the front end to get you in a house. A house is much more than just an asset to be traded somewhere. It's foundational to where you're at. And then making sure that the things you buy every day, whether they be prescription drugs or other things, that there's fairness in that. Look, the $35 insulin is a good thing, but it costs $5 to make insulin. They were charging $800 before this law went into effect. As far as the housing goes, I've seen it in Minnesota. 12% more houses in Minneapolis, prices went down on rent 4%. It's working. And then making sure tax cuts go to the middle class. $6,000 child tax credit, we have one in Minnesota, reduces childhood poverty by 1/3. We save money in the long run, and we do the right thing for families. And then getting businesses off the ground. The law as it stands right now is $5,000 tax credit for small business, increasing that to $50,000. Now, this is a philosophical difference between us. Donald Trump made a promise, and I'll give you this. He kept it. He took folks to Mar-a-Lago, said, you're rich as hell, I'm gonna give you a tax cut. He gave the tax cuts that predominantly went to the top class. What happened there was an $8 trillion increase in the national debt, the largest ever. Now he's proposing a 20% consumption or sales tax on everything we bring in. Everyone agrees, including businesses, it would be destabilizing it. It would increase inflation and potentially lead to a recession. Look, this is simple for you. Where are we going? Kamala Harris has said to do the things she wants to do. We just ask the wealthiest to pay their fair share.
You mean your buddy
our
on
system
Wall
works
Street?
best. More people are participating in it, and folks have the things that they need.
Senator, I want to give you a moment to respond on that. But similarly, the Wharton School has done an analysis of the Trump plan and says it would increase the nation's deficit by $5.8 trillion. My question is the same for you. How do you pay for all that without ballooning the deficit? I'll give you 2 minutes.
Why are they fact checking only his
We're gonna
shit?
hear a lot from Tim Walz this evening, and you just heard it in the answer. A lot of what Kamala Harris proposes to do, and some of it, I'll be honest with you, it even sounds pretty good. Here's what you won't hear, is that Kamala Harris has already done it. Because she's been the vice president for 3.5 years. She had the opportunity to enact all of these great policies. And what she's actually done instead is drive the cost of food higher by 25%, drive the cost of housing higher by about 60%. Open the American southern border and make middle-class life unaffordable for a large number of Americans. If Kamala Harris has such great plans for how to address middle-class problems, then she ought to do them now, not when asking for a promotion, but in the job the American people gave her 3.5 years ago. And the fact that she isn't tells you a lot about how much you can trust her actual plans. Now, Donald Trump's economic plan is not just a plan, but it's also a record. A lot of those same economists attack Donald Trump's plans, and they have PhDs, but they don't have common sense and they don't have wisdom, because Donald Trump's economic policies delivered the highest take-home pay in a generation in this country, 1.5% inflation, and to boot, peace and security all over the world. So when people say that Donald Trump's economic plan doesn't make sense, I say, look at the record. He delivered rising take-home pay for American workers. Now, Tim admirably admits that they want to undo the Trump tax cuts. But if you look at what was so different about Donald Trump's tax cuts, even from previous Republican tax cut plans, is that a lot of those resources went to giving more take-home pay to middle class and working class Americans. It was passed in 2017, and you saw an American economic boom unlike we've seen in a generation in this country. That is a record that I'm proud to run on, and we're going to get back to that common sense wisdom so that you can afford to live the American dream again. I know a lot of you are struggling. I know a lot of you are worried about paying the bills. It's going to stop when Donald Trump brings back common sense to this country.
Governor, do you want to respond to that? What has Kamala Harris done for the middle class?
Yeah, well, Kamala Harris's day one was Donald Trump's failure on COVID that led to the collapse of our economy. We were already before COVID in a manufacturing.
You gotta be fucking kidding me, bro. This COVID shit. Can you get a new talking
9
point?
million jobs closed on that. That was day one. Whether it was the infrastructure
he
act or
also
other
didn't
things
get a
we moved.
chance
Now,
to respond
you made a question about experts.
to
said
Tim's
this.
bullshit.
I made a note of this. Economists don't
No, he
can't be
didn't.
trusted. Science can't be trusted. National security folks can't be trusted. Look, if you're going to be president, You don't have all the answers. Donald Trump believes he
You mean
does.
the generals
My
that
pro
lost
tip of the
Iraq
day
and
is this,
Afghanistan
that
can
you
be
need
trusted?
heart surgery. Listen to the people at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, not Donald Trump. And the same thing goes with this. And I ask you out there, teachers, nurses, truck drivers, whatever, how is it fair that you're paying your taxes every year and Donald Trump hasn't paid any federal tax in the last 15 years? And the last year as president. That's what's wrong with the system.
Don't give a shit. Don't really give a shit.
Bragged about that. We're just asking for fairness in it.
You're not supposed to pay taxes any fucking way, so don't really give a shit.
Governor, you say trust the
fairness.
experts. But those same experts for 40 years said that if we shipped our manufacturing base off to China, we'd get cheaper goods. They lied about that. They said if we shipped our industrial base off to other countries, to Mexico and elsewhere, it would make the middle class stronger. They were wrong about that. They were wrong about the idea that if we made America less self-reliant, less productive in our own nation, that it would somehow make us better off, and they were wrong about it. And for the first time in a generation, Donald Trump had the wisdom and the courage to say to that bipartisan consensus, we're not doing it anymore. We're bringing American manufacturing back. We're unleashing American energy. We're going to make more of our own stuff. And this isn't just an economic issue. I mean, I've got 3 beautiful little kids at home, 7, 4, and 2, and I love them very much, and I hope they're in bed right now. But look, so many of the drugs, the pharmaceuticals that we put in the bodies of our children are manufactured by nations that hate us. This has to stop. And we're not going to stop it by listening to experts. We're going to stop it by listening to common sense wisdom, which is what Donald Trump governed on.
Senator, your time is up. Governor Walz, can you address that? I mean, voters say they trust Donald Trump on the economy more. Why?
Well, if you're listening tonight and you want billionaires to get tax cuts, you heard what the numbers were. Look, I'm a union guy on this. I'm not a guy who wanted to ship things overseas, but I understand that, look, we produce soybeans and corn. We need to have fair trading partners. That's something that we believe in. I think the thing that most concerns me on this is Donald Trump was the guy who created the largest trade deficit in American history with China. So the rhetoric is good. Much of what the senator said right there, I'm in agreement with him on this. I watched it happen too. I watched it to my communities, and we talked about that. But we had people undercutting the right to collectively bargain. We had right to work states made it more difficult. We had companies that were willing to ship it over, and we saw people profit. Folks that are venture capital in some cases, putting money into companies that were overseas. We're in agreement that we bring those home. The issue is Donald Trump is talking about it. Kamala Harris has a record, 250,000 more manufacturing jobs just out of the IRA.
May I respond to that?
Yes.
So appreciate that. So if you notice, what Governor Walz just did is he said, first of all, Donald Trump has to listen to the experts. And then when he acknowledged that the experts screwed up, he said, well, Donald Trump didn't do nearly as good of a job as the statistics
that's a gross generalization.
that he did. So what Tim Walz is doing, and I honestly, Tim, I think you got a tough job here, because you've got to play whack-a-mole. You've got to pretend that Donald Trump didn't deliver rising take-home pay, which of course he did. You've got to pretend that Donald Trump didn't deliver lower inflation, which of course he did. And then you've simultaneously got to defend Kamala Harris's atrocious economic record, which has made gas, groceries, and housing unaffordable for American citizens. I was raised by a woman who would sometimes go into medical debt so that she could put food on the table in our household. I know what it's like to not be able to afford the things that you need to afford. We can do so much better. To all of you watching, we can get back to an America that's affordable again. We just got to get back to common sense economic principles.
I hope we have a conversation on healthcare then.
Senator, Governor.
Please.
Thank you, Margaret.
We have a lot to get to ahead, gentlemen, on many topics. But right now, I want to talk about personal qualifications. The vice president is often the last voice the president hears before making consequential decisions. We want to ask you about your leadership qualities. Governor Walz, you said you were in Hong Kong during the deadly Tiananmen Square protests in the spring of 1989. But Minnesota Public Radio and other media outlets are reporting that you actually didn't travel to Asia until August of that year. Can you explain that discrepancy?
Yeah, well, and to the folks out there who didn't get at the top of this, look, I grew up in small rural Nebraska, town of 400, town that you rode your bike with your buddies till the streetlights come on, and I'm proud of that.
Remember
service.
good.
I joined the National Guard at 17.
Answer the fucking question, Chief.
And then
Answer the question. Don't
to become a teacher.
circumventing it.
A young teacher. My first year out, I got the opportunity in the summer of
Did
89,
you or did you not
35 years ago
travel to China?
I came back home and then started a program to take young people there. We would take basketball teams, we would take baseball teams, we would take dancers, and we would go back and forth to China. The issue for that was to try and learn. Now, look, my community knows who I am. They saw where I was at. Look, I will be the first to tell you, I have poured my heart into my community. I've tried to do the best I can, but I've not been perfect.
Just say no.
Knucklehead at times, but it's
Just
always
say
been about
no.
that. Those same people.
He wasn't there, folks.
For
That's
12
basically
years.
what he's saying.
And in
He
Congress,
wasn't there.
I was one of the most bipartisan people, working on things like farm bills that we got done, working on veterans benefits. And then the people of Minnesota were able to elect me to governor twice. So look, my commitment has been from the beginning to make sure that I'm there for the people, to make sure that I get this right. I will say
what was the
more
question
than anything,
again?
Many times I will talk a lot. I will get caught up in the rhetoric. But being there, the impact it made, the difference it made in my life, I learned a lot about China. I hear the critiques of this. I would make the case that Donald Trump should have come on one of those trips with us. I guarantee you he wouldn't be praising Xi Jinping about COVID. And I guarantee you he wouldn't start a trade war that he ends up losing. So this is about trying to understand the world. It's about trying to do the
were
best
you or were you
and then
not
it's putting
in
yourself out
China
there and letting your
at the
folks
time
understand what it
period
is.
that you said
My
you were
commitment
in?
to
Were
the
you there
people
when
is
seeing this
whether
happened?
it's
Fuck all the
being a
bullshit.
good soldier or was being a good member of Congress. Those are the things that I think are the values that people care about.
Governor, just to follow up on that, the question was, can you explain the discrepancy?
All I said on this is I got there that summer and misspoke on this. So I will just, that's what I've said.
Great. That's all we wanted to know. You weren't there. You weren't there, dog. That's all we needed to know.
China during the democracy protest went in. And from that, I learned a lot of what needed to be in governance.
Sir, you're nigga liar.
Just say you weren't there, dog. That's
Senator
not we weren't
Vance,
all
in
asking all that other shit.
2016, you called your running mate Donald Trump unfit for the nation's highest office, and you said he could be America's Hitler. I know you've been asked many times, and you've said you regret those comments and explained you then voted for Donald Trump in 2020. But the Washington Post reported new messages last week in which you also disparaged Trump's economic record while he was president, writing to someone in 2020, quote, Trump thoroughly failed to deliver his economic populism. You're now his running mate, and you've shifted many of your policy stances to align with his. If you become vice president, why should Americans trust that you will give Donald Trump the advice he needs to hear and not just the advice he wants to hear?
Question. What you ask that motherfucker?
Well, first of all, Margaret, because I've always been open. And sometimes, of course, I've disagreed with the president, but I've also been extremely open about the fact that I was wrong about Donald Trump. I was wrong, first of all, because I believed some of the media stories that turned out to be dishonest fabrications of his record. But most importantly, Donald Trump delivered for the American people. Rising wages, rising take-home pay, an economy that worked for normal Americans, a secure southern border, a lot of things, frankly, that I didn't think he'd be able to deliver on. And yeah, when you screw up, when you misspeak, when you get something wrong and you change your mind, you ought to be honest with the American people about it. It's one of the reasons, Margaret, why I've done so many interviews is because I think it's important to actually explain to the American people where I come down on the issues and what changed. Now, you pointed out the messages from 2020. Margaret, I've been extremely consistent that I think there were a lot of things that we could have done better in the Trump administration the first round if Congress was doing its job. I strongly believe, and I've been a United States Senator, that Congress is not just a high-class debating society. It's not just a forum for senators and congressmen to whine about problems. It's a forum to govern. So there were a lot of things on the border, on tariffs, for example, where I think that we could have done so much more if the Republican Congress and the Democrats in Congress had been a little bit better about how they govern the country. They were so obsessed with impeaching Donald Trump, they couldn't actually govern. And I want to talk about this tariff issue in particular, Margaret, because Tim just accused this of being a national sales tax. Look, the one thing, and you're probably surprised to hear me praising Joe Biden, but the one thing that Joe Biden did is he continued some of the Trump tariffs that protected American manufacturing jobs. And it's the one issue, the most pro-worker part of the Biden administration, it's the one issue where Kamala Harris has run away from Joe Biden's record. Think about this. If you're trying to employ slave laborers in China at $3 a day, you're going to do that and undercut the wages of American workers unless our country stands up for itself and says you're not accessing our markets unless you're paying middle-class Americans a fair wage.
Senator, your time is up. Nora?
Thank you. Now to the issue of reproductive rights. Oh. Governor Walz, after Roe versus Wade was overturned, you signed a bill into law that made Minnesota one of the least restrictive states in the nation when it comes to abortion. Former President Trump said in the last debate that you believe abortion, quote, in the 9th month is absolutely fine. Yes or no? Is that what you support? I'll give you 2 minutes.
That's not what the bill says, but look, this issue is what's on everyone's mind. Donald Trump put this all into motion. He brags about how great it was that he put the judges in and overturned Roe versus Wade, 52 years of personal autonomy. Okay. And then he tells us, oh, we send it to the states. It's a beautiful thing. Amanda Zaworski would disagree with you on it's a beautiful thing. A young bride in Texas waiting for their child at 18 weeks. She has a complication, a tear in the membrane. She needs to go in. The medical care at that point needs to be decided by the doctor. And that would have been an abortion. But in Texas, that would have put them in legal jeopardy. She went home, got sepsis, nearly dies, and now she may have difficulty having children. Or in Kentucky, Hadley Duvall, a 12-year-old child raped and impregnated by her stepfather. Those are horrific. Now, when God asked about that, Senator Vance said 2 wrongs don't make a right. There is no right in this. So in Minnesota, what we did was restore Roe versus Wade. We made sure that we put women in charge of their health care. But look,
so in other
this
words,
is not, if you don't know Amanda or a Hadley, you soon will. Their Project 2025 is going to have a registry of pregnancies. It's going to make it more difficult, if not impossible, to get contraception and limit access, if not eliminate access to infertility treatments. For so many of you out there listening, me included, infertility treatments are why I have a child. That's nobody else's business, but those things are being proposed.
Is against
and the catch-all on this is, well, the states will decide what's right for Texas might not be right for Washington. That's not how this works. This is basic human right. We have seen maternal mortality skyrocket in Texas, outpacing many other countries in the world. This is about healthcare. In Minnesota, we are ranked first in healthcare for a reason. We trust women, we trust doctors.
Senator, do you want to respond to the governor's claim? Will you create a federal pregnancy monitoring agency?
No, Nora, certainly we won't. And I want to talk about this issue because I know a lot of Americans care about it, and I know a lot of Americans don't agree with everything that I've ever said on this topic. And, you know, I grew up in a working class family in a neighborhood where I knew a lot of young women who had unplanned pregnancies and decided to terminate those pregnancies because they feel like they didn't have any other options. And, you know, one of them is actually very dear to me. And I know she's watching tonight, and I love you. And she told me something a couple years ago that she felt like if she hadn't had that abortion, that it would have destroyed her life because she was in an abusive relationship. And I think that what I take from that as a Republican who proudly wants to protect innocent life in this country, who proudly wants to protect the vulnerable, is that my party, we've got to do so much better of a job at earning the American people's trust back on this issue where they frankly just don't trust us. And I think that's one of the things that Donald Trump and I are endeavoring to do. I want us as a Republican Party to be pro-family in the fullest sense of the word. I want us to support fertility treatments. I want us to make it easier for moms to afford to have babies. I want it to make it easier for young families to afford a home so they can afford a place to raise that family. And I think there's so much that we can do on the public policy front just to give women more options. Now, of course, Donald Trump has been very clear that on the abortion policy specifically, that we have a big country and it's diverse. And California has a different viewpoint on this than Georgia. Georgia has a different viewpoint from Arizona. And the proper way to handle this, as messy as democracy sometimes is to let voters make these decisions, let the individual states make their abortion policy. And I think that's what makes the most sense in a very big, a very diverse, and let's be honest, sometimes a very, very messy and divided country.
Governor, would you like to respond and also answer the question about restrictions?
Yeah, well, the question got asked and Donald Trump made the accusation that wasn't true about Minnesota. Well, let me tell you about this idea that there's diverse states. There's a young woman named Amber Thurman. She happened to be in Georgia, a restrictive state. Because of that, she had to travel a long distance to North Carolina to try and get her care. Amber Thurman died in that journey back and forth. The fact of the matter is, how can we as a nation say that your life and your rights As basic as the right to control your own body is determined
She
on
did not
geography.
die in
There's a
transit.
very
She
real
died in
chance
the
that Amber
ICU of
Thurman lived in
septicemia.
Minnesota, she would be alive today.
Because
That's
she tried
the
to abort 2
restoration of
babies
Roe
with
versus
enough
Wade.
drugs for
When you
one.
listen to Vice President Harris talk about
Because
this
you no
subject, and you
longer
hear me
have to
talk
get a
about it,
fucking
you hear us talking
X-ray
exactly the same.
or an
Donald
ultrasound
Trump is
before
trying
getting
to
the
figure
pill.
out how to get the political right of this. I agree with a lot of what Senator Vance said about what's happening. His running mate, though, does not, and that's the problem.
Governor, your time is up. Senator, let me ask you about that. He mentioned, it was, I think, referring to a national ban. In the past, you have supported a federal ban on abortion after 15 weeks. In fact, you said if someone can't support legislation like that, quote, you are making the United States the most barbaric pro-abortion regime anywhere in the entire world. My question is, why have you changed your position?
Well, Nora, first of all, I never supported a national ban. I did when I was running for Senate in 2022 talk about setting some minimum national standard. For example, we have a partial birth abortion ban in place in this country at the federal level. I don't think anybody's trying to get rid of that, or at least I hope not, though I know that Democrats have taken a very radical pro-abortion stance. But Nora, you know, one of the things that changed is in the state of Ohio, we had a referendum in 2023, and the people of Ohio voted overwhelmingly, by the way, against my position. And I think that what I learned from that, Nora, is that we've got to do a better job at winning back people's trust. So many young women would love to have families. So many young women also see an unplanned pregnancy as something that's going to destroy their livelihood, destroy their education, destroy their relationships. And we have got to earn people's trust back. And that's why Donald Trump and I are committed to pursuing pro-family policies, making childcare more accessible, making fertility treatments more accessible, because we've got to do a better job at that. And that's what real leadership is.
Governor, your response.
I'm going to respond on the pro-abortion piece of that. No, we're not. We're pro-women. We're pro-freedom to make your own choice. We know what the implications are to not be that. Women having miscarriages, women not getting the care, physicians feeling like they may be prosecuted for providing that care. And as far as making sure that we're educating our children and giving them options, Minnesota's a state with one of the lowest teen pregnancy rates. We understand that too. We know that the options need to be available, and we make that true. We also make it, we're a top 3 state for the best place to raise children. But these two things, to try and say that we're pro-children, but we don't like this, or you guys are pro-abortion, that's not the case at all. We are pro-freedoms for women to make their choices, and we're going, and Kamala Harris is making the case, to make options for children more affordable, a $6,000 child tax credit, but we're not going to base that on the backs of making someone like Amber Thurman drive 600 miles to try and get health care.
Senator.
May I respond to that? First of all, Governor, I agree with you. Amber Thurman should still be alive, and there are a lot of people who should still be alive, and I certainly wish that she was. And maybe you're free to disagree with me on this and explain this to me, but as I read the Minnesota law that you signed into law, the statute that you signed into law, it says that a doctor who presides over an abortion where the baby survives, the doctor is under no obligation to provide life-saving care to a baby who survives a botched late-term abortion. That is, I think,
That's
whether
not
you're
true.
pro-choice or pro-abortion, that is fundamentally barbaric. And that's why I use that word, Nora, is because some of what we've seen, do you want to force Catholic hospitals to perform abortions against their will? Because Kamala Harris has supported suing Catholic nuns to violate their freedom of conscience. We can be a big and diverse country where we respect people's freedom of conscience and make the country more pro-baby and pro-family. But please.
Yes, Governor, please respond.
Look, this is one where there's always something there. This is a very simple proposition. These are women's decisions to make about their healthcare decisions, and the physicians who know best when they need to do this. Trying to distort the way a
So
law
9-month
is written
abortions
to try
are
and make a point,
okay.
that's not it at
If
all.
What was I
mom
wrong
wants
about,
to.
Governor? Please tell me, what was I wrong
That is
about?
not the way the law is written. Look, I've given
But
this,
how?
I've given this advice on a lot of things, that getting involved, getting against, that's been misread, and it was fact-checked at the last debate. But the point on this is there's a continuation of these guys to try and tell women or to get involved. I use this line on this, just mind your own business on this. Things work best when Roe versus Wade was in place. When we do a restoration of Roe, that works best. That doesn't preclude us from increasing funding for children. It doesn't increase us from making sure that once that child's born, like in Minnesota, they get meals, they get early childhood education, they get health care. So hiding behind we're going to do all these other things when you're not proposing them in your budget. Kamala Harris is proposing them. She's proposing all those things to make life easier for families.
I asked a specific question, Governor. You gave me a slogan as a response.
It's not the case. It's not true. That's not what the law says. So they fact-checked it with President Trump.
Gentlemen, there's a lot to discuss. We have to move on, and we're going to be right back with much more of the CBS News vice presidential debate in just a moment.
Oh, man. Oh, gee. You up here?
Yes, sir, I am.
What you got? What you got? You very talkative in the chat.
Yeah, bro, because I'm looking at this bias y'all doing up here, man. What we doing here, bro? Call out the bullshit when the bullshit is bullshit. These niggas agreeing. These niggas is agreeing on the same fucking things. And this last thing this nigga just got through talking about the what did this nigga just say here and try to claim? Some bullshit Trump never did claim.
Absolutely.
Didn't these niggas didn't Kamala and Harris didn't Kamala and this nigga Trump agree on the same goddamn thing? Didn't make no goddamn sense. And them motherfuckers sat there and agreed on the shit. What is this dude talking about? Call that shit out, bro.
What did they
fucking
agree
up?
on?
The bullshit with the doctor in the States. They ain't going against it, Mayo.
Actually, Tampon Timmy doesn't agree with it.
They ain't what okay. Did he say Tim or did he say nigga that what them two was agreeing with?
Tim is
I'm listening to what they no nigga. If you go back and just listen to what dude was just talking about, he just got through saying he said something about them two motherfuckers, the niggas who was talking about the shit. He told him he was wrong because he didn't agree with that. That's what Tim told him. But he didn't say nothing to Tim about that shit. He was talking about them other two motherfuckers and what the law has said. And he was telling him you're wrong about that because he was like, only thing that he said about Tim is you agree with the shit. And he was like, no, because the law doesn't say that. But if you even want to go to what them two presidents was talking about, they was talking about the same goddamn thing. We sat here and agreed with that shit. We sit here and listen to both of them motherfuckers.
But they wasn't talking about Minnesota specifically. That wasn't
I know
brought
that,
up.
bro. I know that. Who brought up Minnesota?
Vance.
No, Tim did, sir, to try to bring his point back, to tell him it was different there than in which we already know because it's each individual state is going to have their own. And that's what they was talking about. Bro, come on, man. I'm listening, dog.
Vance started it off with saying about Minnesota, and then Tim came back, and then
told him there wasn't the law in Minnesota.
Well, I don't know what the law is in Minnesota. Do you want me to look it up?
You don't have to, sir. What you need to look it up for?
Because he said it's not the law. It's not how the law is read. That's what he said.
Why are you trying to disown what this nigga's talking about? I'm not even disowning what neither. I'm talking about the question that these niggas was asking, what he asked him. They have nothing to do with what these niggas is about to argue about, what we about to argue about, if that nigga shit is true or not. They didn't have nothing to do with that.
I'm confused. What's the argument?
If you want to go look it up and say that's the argument for us, that's cool.
No. I'm asking, what is the
because
argument?
I would want to know. I'm telling you, you don't have to look at that. You just brought that up.
No. You asked me, do I know the law? I don't know the law. What is your argument?
Bro, I didn't ask you about nothing about that. I said, that's what that nigga told that nigga. Bro, you keep on pushing it back to you, bro. I don't care. I didn't ask you. I was telling you what these niggas said. One of them said something, and then the other one said, you're lying about this. Them niggas need to go and look up the shit and find out what the fucking law is, Tom. Now, if you want to sit here and look up the law and explain to us and see which one of them niggas was wrong and which one was right, I have no problem with you doing that. I didn't bring that up for you to go. Again, I'm only talking about this. Don't bring it back to me.
Okay. What is the argument that they're arguing over? That's what I'm asking.
Most of the stuff that they are agreeing on, like I just told you when I came up here, when you just asked about it, I said that's the crazy part. So the stuff that they're saying, while we're just calling out the stuff that one is saying, when the other one is saying the same shit, then tell another one, I agree with you. But you're sitting here talking about the shit that he's talking about. That don't make no sense.
But what are you saying they agree on?
I didn't say it in the chat 3-4 times that these niggas, but he didn't sit here and say, I agree with you on this. I agree with you on this. So
with each other. You're right. They're both have
agreed. Mayo, you answer that question, sir. What am I saying they're agreeing on? Because they didn't, because Tom just sat there and told you they agreed on a lot. And I agree with that.
They agree with each other. They keep saying that stupid shit. I don't know
And
why.
and only time that he did, only time he went against us when he just told him, "I agree with you." When he asked, we said first no, and that was the last question before the question. They just got to ask.
Do they agree it should be up to the states to allow abortion?
Both of them, yes.
No, sir. That is not Tim's. That is not Tim's point.
What is Tim's point?
He wants to be federalized with a new version of Roe versus Wade. That's what he said.
And that gives the power to what? Each individual state, right?
No,
Like
takes power away from the states and gives it to the federal government.
Well, I heard something way different. I heard that nigga talking about the same thing that Kamala was talking about, which was the power of them having control over that and not putting the power in the woman's hand and not putting the power in the other person's hand.
Well,
Kamala wants to put it back in the federal hands too, though.
In our schools, we have to make the doors lock better. We have to make the doors stronger. We've got to make the windows stronger. And of course, we've got to increase school resource officers, because the idea that we can magically wave a wand and take guns out of the hands of bad guys, it just doesn't fit with recent experience. So we've got to make our schools safer. And I think we've got to have some common sense bipartisan solutions for how to do that.
Governor, you have 2 minutes.
Well, I think all the parents watching tonight, this is your biggest nightmare. Look, I got a 17-year-old and he witnessed a shooting at a community center playing volleyball. Those things don't leave you. As a member of Congress, I sat in my office surrounded by dozens of the Sandy Hook parents, and they were looking at my 7-year-old picture on the wall. Their 7-year-old were dead, and they were asking us to do something. And look, I'm a hunter. I own firearms. The vice president is. We understand that the Second Amendment is there, but our first responsibility is to our kids to figure this out. In Minnesota, we enacted enhanced red flag laws, enhanced background checks, and we can start to get data. But here's the problem. If we really want to solve this, we've got folks that won't allow research to be even done on gun violence. And this idea that we should just live with it, and I here's what I do think. This is a good start to the conversation.
They don't allow the CDC to do research.
Hates it when these kids, it's abhorrent and it breaks your heart.
Because it's not a fucking
with
disease.
That. But that's not far enough when we know there are things that work. I've spent time in Finland and seen some Finnish schools. They don't have this happen, even though they have a high gun ownership rate in the country. There are reasonable things that we can do to make a difference.
And they don't have
It's not infringing on your Second Amendment. And the idea to have some of these weapons out there, it just doesn't make any sense. Kamala Harris, as an attorney general, worked on this issue. She knows that it's there. No one's trying to scaremonger and say we're taking your guns, but I ask all of you out there, do you want your schools hardened to look like a fort? Is that what we have to go when we know there's countries around the world that their children aren't practicing these types of drills? They're being kids. We owe it to them to get a fix. These are things that shouldn't be that difficult. You can still keep your firearms and we can make a difference. We have to. If you're listening tonight, this breaks your heart.
Senator.
Tim, first of all, I didn't know that your 17-year-old witnessed a shooting. I'm sorry about that, and I hope you're doing okay. Christ have mercy. It is awful. And I appreciate what Tim said actually about Finland, because I do think it illustrates some of the frankly weird differences between our own country's gun violence problem and Finland. Is okay, first of all, we have way higher rates of mental health abuse or mental health substance abuse. We have way higher rates of depression, way higher rates of anxiety. We unfortunately have a mental health crisis in this country that I really do think that we need to get to the root causes of, because I don't think it's the whole reason why we have such a bad gun violence problem, but I do think it's a big piece of it. Another driver of the gun violence epidemic, especially that affecting our kids, it doesn't earn as many headlines, but is the terrible gun violence problem in a lot of our big cities. And this is why we have to empower law enforcement to arrest the bad guys, put them away, and take gun offenders off the streets. I think there's a whole host of things that we can do here, but I do think at our schools, we've got to talk about more security.
Senator, thank you. Governor, you previously opposed an assault weapons ban, but it only later in your political career did you change your position. Why?
Yeah, I sat in that office with those Sandy Hook parents. I've become friends with school shooters. I've seen it. Look, the NRA, I was an NRA guy for a long time. They used to teach gun safety. I'm of an age where my shotgun was in my car so I could pheasant hunt after football practice. That's not where we live today. And several things I want to mention on this is talking about cities and where it's at. The number one where the most firearm deaths happen in Minnesota are rural suicides. And we have an epidemic of children getting guns and shooting themselves. And so we have, and we should look at all of the issues, making sure folks have health care and all that. But I want to be very careful. This idea of stigmatizing mental health, just because you have a mental health issue doesn't mean you're violent. And I think what we end up doing is we start looking for a scapegoat. Sometimes it just is the guns. It's just the guns, and there are things that you can do about it. But I do think that this is one, and I think this is a healthy conversation.
No, it's not.
I think there's a capacity to find solutions on this that work, protect Second Amendment, protect our children. That's our priority.
Gentlemen, thank you. Margaret?
Thank you, Nora. Let's turn now to the top contributor to inflation, the high cost of housing and rent. There's a shortage of more than 4 million homes in the United States, and that contributes to the high housing prices. Governor Walz, the Harris campaign promises a $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers and a $10,000 tax credit. They also promise to build 3 million new homes. Where are you building these homes, and won't handing out that kind of money just drive up prices higher?
No, it's not handing out. We have, first, let me say this issue of housing, and I think those of you listening on this, the problem we've had is that we've got a lot of folks that see housing as another commodity. It can be bought up, it can be shifted, it can be moved around. Those are not folks living in those houses. Those of you listening tonight, that house is a big deal. I bought and owned one house in my life. My mom still lives in the house where I was. And when I think of a house, I'm thinking of Christmas services after midnight mass where you go with your family. We need to make it more affordable. And one of the things, as I said, this program that the vice president is pushing forward and bringing a new way of approaching this is something we're doing in Minnesota from that lead. We in the state invested in making sure our housing was the biggest investment that we'd ever made in housing. It starts to make it easier. We cut some of the red tape. Local folks, look, we can't do it at the federal level, but local folks make it easier to build those homes. And then that down payment assistance. I can tell all of you out there, one of the, certainly for me, using the GI Bill was one thing, but a veteran's home loan, the big thing about a veteran's home loan is you don't have to pay the down payment. Those are things that make it there. Now, look, you're going to pay it back and you're going to pay your mortgage. Those are things that we know in the long run, the appreciated value, the generational wealth that's created from it. And I will give Minneapolis an example. Minneapolis is the one city where we've seen the lowest inflation rates. We've seen a 12% increase in stock because we've put some of these things in, and we're implementing a state program to make sure we give some of that down payment assistance. We get it back from people because here's what we know. People with stable housing end up with stable jobs. People with stable housing have their kids able to get to school. All of those things in the long run end up saving our money. And that's the thing that I think we should be able to find some common ground in, but we can't blame immigrants for the only reason. That's not the case that's happening in many cities. The fact of the matter is that we don't have enough naturally affordable housing, but we can make sure that the government's there to help kickstart it, create that base.
Governor, your time is up. Senator Vance, as far as your campaign's position, the promise is to seize federal lands to build homes, remove regulation, provide tax breaks, and cut back on immigration, which you say pushes up prices. Where are you going to build all the new homes you're promising? And what part of any of this plan will provide immediate relief? You have 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, Tim just said something that I agree with. We don't want to blame immigrants for higher housing prices, but we do want to blame Kamala Harris for letting in millions of illegal aliens into this country, which does drive up costs, Tim. 25 million illegal aliens competing with Americans for scarce homes is one of the most significant drivers of home prices in the country. It's why we have massive increases in home prices that have happened right alongside massive increases in illegal alien populations under Kamala Harris's leadership. Now, Tim just mentioned a bunch of ideas. Now, some of those ideas I actually think are halfway decent, and some of them I disagree with. But the most important thing here is Kamala Harris is not running as a newcomer to politics. She is the sitting vice president. If she wants to enact all of these policies to make housing more affordable, I invite her to use the office that the American people already gave her, not sit around and campaign and do nothing while Americans find the American dream of homeownership completely unaffordable. Now, you asked, Margaret, what would immediately change the equation for American citizens if you lower energy prices? As Donald Trump says, drill, baby, drill. One of the biggest drivers of housing costs, aside from illegal immigration, is, think about it. If a truck driver is paying 40% more for diesel, then the lumber he's delivering to the job site to build the house is also going to become a lot more expensive. If we open up American energy, you will get immediate pricing relief for American citizens, not, by the way, just in housing, but in a whole host of other economic goods too.
That wasn't a question.
Senator Vance, you still have 23 seconds there. Do you want to answer?
Can I have it?
Where, Governor, we will get to you in a moment, but Senator, where are you going to seize the federal lands? Can you clarify?
Well, what Donald Trump has said is we have a lot of federal lands that aren't being used for anything. They're not being used for a national park. They're not being used, and they could be places where we build a lot of housing. And I do think that we should be opening up building in this country. We have a lot of land that could be used. We have a lot of Americans that need homes. We should be kicking out illegal immigrants who are competing for those homes, and we should be building more homes for the American citizens
let all that housing
who
go to
deserve
waste.
to be here.
Senator, your time is up. Governor, I do want to let you respond to the allegation that the vice president is letting in.
Well, of course, that's not true. And again, you have the facts. I guess we agreed not to fact check. I'll check it. That, look, crossings are down compared to when Donald Trump left office. But it's, again, blaming and not trying to find the solution. I was going to ask, though, on this question, are we going to drill and build houses in the same federal land? And I think when people hear federal lands, these are really important pieces of land. Now, Minnesota doesn't have a lot of federal lands. I know in the western part of the countries we do. There's not a lot of federal lands in and around Minneapolis, for example. So the issue is I don't understand the federal lands issue unless we see this, and I worry about this as someone who cares deeply about our national parks and our federal lands. Look, Minnesota, we protect these things. We've got about 20% of the world's fresh water. These lands protect. They're there for a reason. They belong to all of us. But again, this is when you view housing and you view these things as commodities. Like, there's a chance to make money here. Let's take this federal land and let's sell it to people for that. I think there's better ways to do this. We've seen it in Minnesota. We're able to refurbish some of these houses. We're able to make some investments. That gets people in. And I'm still on the fact on this. Economists, Senator Vance, you said you don't like the economists. Which economists are saying that it is immigrants that's adding to the cost?
Governor, your time is up. But Senator, on that point, I'd like for you to clarify. There are many contributing factors to high housing costs. What evidence do you have?
And energy is number one
for
everything.
Problem.
Well, there's a Federal Reserve study that we're happy to share after the debate. We'll put it up on social media, actually, that really drills down on the connection between increased levels of migration, especially illegal immigration, and higher housing prices. Now, of course, Margaret, that's not the entire driver of higher housing prices. It's also the regulatory regime of Kamala Harris. Look, we are a country of builders. We're a country of doers. We're a country of explorers. But we increasingly have a federal administration that makes it harder to develop our resources, makes it harder to build things, and wants to throw people in jail for not doing everything exactly as Kamala Harris says they have to do. And what that means is that you have a lot of people who would love to build homes who aren't able to build homes. I actually agree with Tim Walz. We should get out of this idea of housing as a commodity. But the thing that has most turned housing into a commodity is giving it away to millions upon millions of people who have no legal right to be here.
What are the federal regulations? I deal with this as a governor.
You can very quickly reply.
I'm sorry. I get this as a governor, and I don't necessarily disagree with that in some cases, many of those are local. Many of them are state. I don't know which ones are federal, but I think whenever we talk regulations, people think they can get rid of them. I think you want to be able to get out of your house in a fire. I think you want to make sure that it's fireproof and those types of things. So which are the regulations? Because the vice president's not responsible for those. Congress writes those.
Governor, thank you. Gentlemen, we have a lot to get to. You're passionate about the housing crisis, I can tell. But Nora?
Thank you. One of the
She's
top
the president
problems
of the
facing
Senate,
Americans
isn't she?
is the high cost
Yes.
of health care. Senator Vance, at the last presidential debate, former President Trump was asked about replacing the Affordable Care Act. In response, he said, I have concepts of a plan. Since then, Senator, you've talked about changing how chronically ill Americans get health insurance. Can you explain how that would work? And can you guarantee that Americans with pre-existing conditions won't pay more? I'll give you 2 minutes.
Well, of course, we're going to cover Americans with pre-existing conditions. In fact, a lot of my family members have gotten health care. I believe, members of my family actually got private health insurance, at least for the first time, switched off of Medicaid onto private insurance for the first time under Donald Trump's leadership. And I think that, a lot of people have criticized this concepts of a plan remark. It's very simple common sense. I think as Tim Walz knows from 12 years in Congress, you're not going to propose a 900-page bill standing on a debate stage. It would bore everybody to tears, and it wouldn't actually mean anything because part of this is the give and take of bipartisan negotiation. Now, when Donald Trump was actually president, and again, he has a record to be proud of, prescription drugs fell in 2018 for the first time in a very long time. Under Kamala Harris's leadership, prescription drugs are up about 7%. Under Donald Trump's entire 4 years, they were up about 1.5%. He introduced pricing transparency. Think about healthcare. You go into a hospital, you try to buy something, and nobody knows what it actually costs. That price transparency will actually give American consumers a little bit more choice and will also drive down costs. And we talked about, the reinsurance regulations is what I was talking about. Look, Donald Trump has said that if we allow states to experiment a little bit on how to cover both the chronically ill, but the non-chronically ill, it's not just a plan. He actually implemented some of these regulations when he was president of the United States. And I think you can make a really good argument that it salvaged Obamacare, which was doing disastrously until Donald Trump came along. And I think this is an important point about President Trump. Of course, you don't have to agree with everything that President Trump has ever said or ever done. But when Obamacare was crushing under the weight of its own regulatory burden and healthcare costs, Donald Trump could have destroyed the program. Instead, he worked in a bipartisan way to ensure that Americans had access to affordable care. It's not perfect, of course, and there's so much more that we can do, but I think that Donald Trump has earned the right to put in place some better healthcare policies. He's earned it because he did it successfully the first time.
Governor?
All right, here's where being an old guy gives you some history. I was there at the creation of the ACA. And the reason it was so important is I come from a major healthcare state, home of the Mayo Clinic, home to Medical Alley. 3M, Medtronic, all of those. We understand healthcare. It's why we're ranked first on affordability and accessibility and quality of healthcare. And so what I know is under Kamala Harris, more people are covered than they have before. And those of you listening, this is critical to you. Now, Donald Trump all of a sudden wants to go back and remember this. He ran on the first thing he was going to do on day one was to repeal Obamacare. On day one, he tried to sign an executive order to repeal the ACA. He signed on to a lawsuit to repeal the ACA, but lost at the Supreme Court. And he would have
nothing you saying. You sound like a trash robot.
Had it not been for the courage of John McCain to save that bill.
That's what I said.
Now, fast forward, what that means to you is you lose your pre-existing conditions. If you're sitting at home and you got asthma, too bad. If you're a woman, probably not. Broke your foot during football, might kick you out. Your kids get kicked out when they're 26. Kamala Harris negotiated.
Minnesota is actually number 6 in affordability of healthcare.
Medicare. We have 10
number 6
drugs that will come online.
Not number
most common
1.
Ones that'll be there. But look, this issue, and when Donald Trump said, I've got a concept of a plan, it cracked me up as a 4th grade teacher because my kids would have never given me that. But what Senator Vance just explained might be worse than a concept. Because what he explained is pre-Obamacare. And I'll make this as simple as possible because I have done this for a long time. What they're saying is, if you're healthy, why should you be paying more? So what they're going to do is let insurance companies pick who they insure, because guess what happens? You pay your premium, it's not much. They figure they're not going to have to pay out to you. But those of you a little
healthcare
older,
accessibility,
gray,
number
cancer,
18.
You're going to get kicked out of it. That's why the system didn't work. Kamala Harris will protect and enhance the ACA.
Governor, thank you. Senator, you have not yet explained how you would protect people with pre-existing conditions or laid out that plan.
Well, look, we currently have laws and regulations in place right now that protect people with pre-existing conditions. We want to keep those regulations in place, but we also want to make the health insurance marketplace function a little bit better. Now, what Governor Walz just said is actually not true. A lot of what happened and the reason that Obamacare was crushing under its own weight is that a lot of young and healthy people were leaving the exchanges. Donald Trump actually helped address that problem. And he did so in a way that preserved people's access to coverage who had pre-existing conditions. But again, something that these guys do is they make a lot of claims about if Donald Trump becomes president, all of these terrible consequences are going to ensue. But in reality, Donald Trump was president. Inflation was low. Take-home pay was higher, and he saved the very program from a Democratic administration that was collapsing and would have collapsed absent his leadership. He did his job, which is govern in a bipartisan way and get results, not just complain about problems, but actually solve them.
Governor, did enrollment under the Affordable Care Act go up under the Trump administration?
It's higher now that we've seen it go up. Look, people are using it. The system works. And the question about this of young people or whatever, that's the individual mandate piece of this. And Republicans fought tooth and nail saying, well, Americans should be free to do this. Well, then what happens is— So you think the
individual mandate's a good idea?
You shrink. I think the idea of making sure the risk pool is broad enough to cover everyone, that's the only way insurance works. When it doesn't, it collapses. You are asking pre-ACA where we get people out. Look, people know that they need to be on health care. People expect it to be there. And when we are able to make it, and we are making it this way, when we incentivize people to be in the market, when we help people who might not be able to afford it get there, and we make sure then when you get sick and old, it's there for you. Because I heard people say, well,
I'm glad I got that.
Just
Hysterectomy insurance.
Good luck buying health care once you get past 70. So look, the ACA works. We can continue to do better. Kamala Harris did that. The way she made everything better was negotiating those 10 drugs on Medicare for the first time in American history.
Thank you. Margaret.
Can I address that?
I apologize. We're out of time. We have a
10
number of
whole
subjects to
drugs.
discuss. Margaret.
Let's talk about families in America.
Oh my God.
There is a child care crisis in this country, and the United States is one of the very few developed countries in the world without a national paid leave program for new parents.
Here goes another dumb conversation.
Governor Walz, you've said that if Democrats win both the White House and Congress, this is a day one priority for you. How long should employers be required to pay workers while they are home taking care of their newborns? You have 2 minutes.
They shouldn't pay them at all.
That's negotiable, and that's what Congress worked. But here's what the deal is. Americans sitting out there right now, you may work for a big company. Look, we're home in Minnesota to some of the largest Fortune 500 companies. Kamala Harris knows that in California. Those companies provide paid family and medical leave. One is, I think they're moral and they think it's a good thing, but it also keeps their employees healthy. We in Minnesota passed a paid family and medical leave. You have a child, and I had to go back to work 5 days after my kids were born. This allows you to stay home a certain amount of time. What we know is—
You should have took off one day. You should have went to work the next day. You didn't have a baby.
They stay in their employers. We get more consistency in that. So Kamala Harris has made it a priority. We implemented it in Minnesota, and we see growth. That's how you become a pro-business state. But the negotiations on it, and here's the issue. Those big companies are able to offer it. Those of you out there who don't have it, just imagine what happens if you get cancer or your child gets sick. We know what happens. You end up
go on
staying home.
FMLA.
In some places, that means no paycheck because you've got no protection on that. This is the case of an economy that Donald Trump has set for the wealthiest amongst us. He's willing to give those tax breaks to the wealthiest. He's willing to say, bust those unions up, do whatever. What we're saying is the economy works best when it works for all of us. And so a paid family medical leave program, and I will tell you, go to the families or go to the businesses and ask them. As far as childcare on this, you have to take it at both the supply and the demand side. You can't expect the most important people in our lives to take either our children or our parents to get paid the least amount of money. And we have to make it easier for folks to be able to get into that business and then to make sure that folks are able to pay for that. We were able to do it in Minnesota, and I'm still telling you this. We were listed as the best state. We're still in crisis on this. A federal program of paid family and medical leave and help with this will enhance our workforce, enhance our families, and make it easier to have the children that you want.
Governor, your time is up. Senator, do you support a national paid leave program? And if so, for how long should employers be mandated to pay their employees while they are home taking care of their newborn? You have 2 minutes.
Yeah, well, first of all, Margaret, a number of my Republican colleagues and some Democrats, too, have worked on this issue. And I think there is a bipartisan solution here because a lot of us care about this issue. I mean, look, I speak from this very personally because I'm married to a beautiful woman who is an incredible mother to our 3 beautiful kids, but is also a very, very brilliant corporate litigator. And I'm so proud of her but being a working mom, even for somebody with all of the advantages of my wife, is extraordinarily difficult. And it's not just difficult from a policy perspective. She actually had access to paid family leave because she worked for a bigger company, but the cultural pressure on young families and especially young women, I think makes it really hard for people to choose the family model they want. A lot of young women would like to go back to work immediately. Some would like to spend a little time home with the kids. Some would like to spend longer at home with the kids. We should have a family care model that makes choice possible. And I think this is a very important substantive difference between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris's approach. I mean, look, if you look at the federal programs that we have that support paid family leave right now, the Community Development Block Grant, and there's another block grant program that spends a lot of money from the federal government. These programs only go to one kind of childcare model. Let's say you'd like your church maybe to help you out with childcare. Maybe you live in a rural area or an urban area and you'd like to get together with families in your neighborhood to provide childcare in the way that makes the most sense. You don't get access to any of these federal monies. We want to promote choice in how we deliver family care and how we promote childcare, because look, it is unacceptable. And, you know, of course, Tim and I have been on the campaign trail a lot the past 7 or 8 weeks. And one of the biggest complaints I hear from young families is people who feel like they don't have options, like they're choosing between going to work or taking care for their kids. That is an incredible burden to put on American families. We're the only country that does it. I think we could do a heck of a lot better.
Senator, thank you. You have also said, Senator Vance, many things about the American family. The Federal Reserve says parents will spend nearly as much on childcare as they do on housing each month. So I want to get your thoughts on this. President Trump recently said,
by the government.
As much as childcare is talked about as being
they won't move their
expensive,
mother-in-laws
it's
into the house with them.
relatively speaking, not very expensive compared to the kinds of numbers we'll be taking in. Is President Trump committed to the $5,000 per child tax credit that you have described? You have 1 minute.
Well, what President Trump said, Margaret, I just want to defend my running mate here a little bit, is that we're going to be taking in a lot of money by penalizing companies for shipping jobs overseas and penalizing countries who employ slave laborers and then ship their products back into our country and undercut the wages of American workers. It's the heart of the Donald Trump economic plan. Cut taxes for American workers and American families. Cut taxes for businesses that are hiring and building companies in the United States of America, but penalize companies and countries that are shipping jobs overseas. That's the heart of the economic proposal. And I think what President Trump is saying is that when we bring in this additional revenue with higher economic growth, we're going to be able to provide paid family leave, childcare options that are viable and workable for a lot of American families.
Can you clarify how that will solve the childcare shortage?
Well, because as Tim said, a lot of the childcare shortage is we just don't have enough resources going into the multiple people who could be providing family care options. And we're going to have to, unfortunately, look, we're going to have to spend more money. We're going to have to induce more people to want to provide childcare options for American families, because the reason it's so expensive right now is because you've got way too few people providing this very essential service.
Thank you, Senator. Governor
Because of
Walz,
regulation.
your ticket also has some child care tax credit proposals. Do you think Congress will agree to the $6,000 credit for newborns and $3,000 credit for children over the age of 6, as your campaign has promised? Is that realistic?
Well, if these members of Congress are listening to anybody, I can tell you, and this is the biggest issue. Everybody listening tonight knows. I mean, I'm sure they were shocked to hear it's not that expensive. And let's be clear, whether it's 5,000 or 6,000, that pays you about 3 or 4 months. Let's be clear of where we're at on this. It's because we got out of an imbalance on this. We thought we were going to get by not paying people. I don't think Senator Vance and I are that far apart. I'm not opposed to what he's talking about on options. We've done scholarships types of things. I think we need to be open to making the case. But the issue here is, the question you asked is, you're not going to pay for it with these tariffs. That's just adding another $4,000 on the family and taking less. So not only do they not get the money to pay for that, they're $4,000 in the hole. That's Wharton School. That's his alma mater. And so I think the issue here is, if those members of Congress, I can't believe they're not. When I go to businesses, sure, they'll talk about taxes sometime, but they will lead with childcare and they will lead with housing, because we know the problem is, especially in a state like Minnesota, we need more workers because our economy is growing, but we need the workforce.
Governor, thank you. We need to move on. Nora?
Let's talk about the state of democracy, the top issue for Americans after the economy and inflation. After the 2020 election, President Trump's campaign and others filed 62 lawsuits contesting the results. Judges, including those appointed by President Trump and other Republican presidents, looked at the evidence and said there was no widespread fraud.
That's not
the
what
governors
okay.
of every state in the nation,
Not what they said.
Republicans and Democrats, certified the 2020 election results and sent a legal slate of electors to Congress for January 6th. Senator Vance, you have said you would not have certified the last presidential election and would have asked the states to submit alternative electors. That has been called unconstitutional and illegal. Would you again seek to challenge this year's election results, even if every governor certifies the results? I'll give you 2 minutes.
Well, Nora, first of all, I think that we're focused on the future. We need to figure out how to solve the inflation crisis caused by Kamala Harris's policies, make housing affordable, make groceries affordable, and that's what we're focused on. But I want to answer your question because you did ask it. Look, what President Trump has said is that there were problems in 2020, and my own belief is that we should fight about those issues, debate those issues peacefully in the public square, and that's all I've said, and that's all that Donald Trump has said. Remember, he said that on January the 6th, the protesters ought to protest peacefully. And on January the 20th, what happened? Joe Biden became the president. Donald Trump left the White House. And now, of course, unfortunately, we have all of the negative policies that have come from the Harris-Biden administration. I believe that we actually do have a threat to democracy in this country, but unfortunately, it's not the threat to democracy that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz want to talk about. It is the threat of censorship. It's Americans casting aside lifelong friendships because of disagreements over politics. It's big technology companies silencing their fellow citizens. And it's Kamala Harris saying that rather than debate and persuade her fellow Americans, she'd like to censor people who engage in misinformation. I think that is a much bigger threat to democracy than anything that we've seen in this country in the last 4 years, in the last 40 years. Now, I'm really proud, especially given that I was raised by two lifelong blue-collar Democrats, to have the endorsement of Bobby Kennedy Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard, lifelong leaders in the Democratic coalition. And of course, they don't agree with me and Donald Trump on every issue. We don't have to agree on every issue, but we're united behind a basic American First Amendment principle that we ought to debate our differences. We ought to argue about them. We ought to try to persuade our fellow Americans. Kamala Harris is engaged in censorship at an industrial scale. She did it during COVID. She's done it over a number of other issues. And that, to me, is a much bigger threat to democracy than what Donald Trump said when he said that protesters should peacefully protest on January the 6th.
Governor?
Well, I've enjoyed tonight's debate, and I think there was a lot of commonality here. And I'm sympathetic to misspeaking on things, and I think I might have with the senator. But
me too, man.
There's one though that this one is troubling to me, and I say that because I think we need to tell the story. Donald Trump refused to acknowledge this, and the fact is that I don't think we can be the frog in the pot and let the boiling water go up. He was very clear. I mean, he lost this election, and he said he didn't. 140 police officers were beaten at the Capitol that day. Some with the American flag, several later died. And it wasn't just in there. In Minnesota, a group gathered on the state capitol grounds in St. Paul and said, we're marching to the governor's residence and there may be casualties. The only person there was my son and his dog, who was rushed out crying by state police. That issue, and Mike Pence standing there as they were chanting, hang Mike Pence. Mike Pence made the right decision. So, Senator, it was adjudicated over and over and over. I worked with kids long enough to know, and I said as a football coach, sometimes you really want to win, but the democracy is bigger than winning an election. You shake hands, and then you try and do everything you can to help the other side win. That's what was at stake here. Now, the thing I'm most concerned about is the idea that imprisoning your political opponent,
hold on. You shake hands, help the other side. Help the other side win.
Accepting this, and a president's words matter. A president's
I'm
words
glad to see
matter.
he agrees that we shouldn't
so I
still be holding the January 6th protest.
Differences at the ballot box, shaking hands when we lose, being honest about it, but to deny what happened on January 6th, the first time in American history that a president or anyone tried to overturn a fair election and the peaceful transfer of power. And here we are 4 years later in the same boat. I will tell you this, that when this is over, We need to shake hands this election, and the winner needs to be the winner. This has got to stop. It's tearing our country apart.
Margaret?
I thought Al Gore did the same thing in 2012. What was it? 8.
First of all,
or 12, whatever it was.
It's really rich
They did.
for Democratic
Huh?
leaders to say that Donald
did.
Trump is a unique threat to democracy when he peacefully gave over power on January the 20th, as we have done for 250 years in this country. We are going to shake hands after this debate and after this election. And of course, I hope that we win, and I think we're going to win. But if Tim Walz is the next vice president, he'll have my prayers, he'll have my best wishes, and he'll have my help whenever he wants it. But we have to remember that for years in this country, Democrats protested the results of elections. Hillary Clinton in 2016 said that Donald Trump had the election stolen by Vladimir Putin because the Russians bought like $500,000 worth of Facebook ads. This has been going on for a long time. And if we want to say that we need to respect the results of the election, I'm on board. But if we want to say, as Tim Walz is saying, that this is just a problem that Republicans have had, I don't buy that.
Governor.
January 6th was not Facebook ads. And I think a revisionist history on this.
What are you
Look, I
talking about?
don't understand how we got to this point. But the issue was that happened. Donald Trump can do it. And all of us say there's no place for this. It has massive repercussions. This idea that there's censorship to stop people from threatening to kill someone, threatening to do something, that's not censorship. Censorship is book banning. We've seen that. We've seen that brought up. I just think for everyone tonight, and I'm going to thank Senator Vance. I think this is the conversation they want to hear. And I think there's a lot of agreement. This is one that we are miles apart on. This was a threat to our democracy in a way that we had not seen. And it manifested itself because of Donald Trump's inability to say. He is still saying he didn't lose the election. I would just ask that. Did he lose the 2020 election?
Tim, I'm focused on the future. Did Kamala Harris censor Americans from speaking their mind in the wake of the 2020 COVID situation?
That is a damning non-answer.
It's a damning non-answer for you to not talk about censorship. Obviously, Donald Trump and I think that there were problems in 2020. We've talked about it. I'm happy to talk about it further. But you guys attack us for not believing in democracy. The most sacred right under the United States democracy is the First Amendment. You yourself have said there's no First Amendment right to misinformation. Kamala Harris wants to use the power of government and big tech to silence people from speaking their minds. That is a threat to democracy that will long outlive this present political moment. I would like Democrats and Republicans to both reject censorship. Let's persuade one another. Let's argue about ideas, and then let's come together afterwards.
You can't yell fire in a crowded theater. That's the test. That's the Supreme Court test.
Tim, fire in a crowded theater. You guys wanted to kick people off of Facebook for saying that toddlers shouldn't
Senator,
wear
the
masks.
governor does have the floor.
Fire in a crowded theater. That is criticizing the policies of the government, which is the right of every American.
Senator, the governor does have the floor for 1 minute to respond to you.
Yeah. Well, I don't run Facebook. What I do know is I see a candidate out there who refused, and now again, and this I'm pretty shocked by this. He lost the election. This is not a debate. It's not anything anywhere other than in Donald Trump's world. Because look, when Mike Pence made that decision to certify that election, that's why Mike Pence isn't on this stage. What I'm concerned about is, where is the firewall with Donald Trump? Where is the firewall if he knows he could do anything, including taking an election, and his vice president's not going to stand to it? That's what we're asking you, America.
What?
Will you stand up? Will you keep your oath of office, even if the president doesn't? And I think Kamala Harris would agree. She wouldn't have picked me if she didn't think I would do that, because of course that's what we would do. So America, I think you've got a really clear choice on this election of who's going to honor that democracy and who's going to honor Donald Trump.
Governor, your time is up.
All you gotta
thank
do
you,
is
gentlemen.
did you do
We
the
will be
democracy
right
thing
back
when
with
you
both of our candidates. The CBS News Vice Presidential debate continues.
I will say I'm tired of the meat stretching that's going on. This shit has got to stop. The meat stretching is horrible.
Yeah, JD needs to not be nice.
Oh, this is meat stretching at the highest point. If they believe in democracy so much, why did they let the people vote her in? How about that?
How many Democratic votes did she get in the DNC?
Yeah,
to be their candidate.
That's a great. Oh, she got them all at the DNC, but before the DNC is. you know, she didn't go
Talk
through
about
no
a false slate of electors.
Yeah.
Sending them to the DNC.
Like we said, it's a private organization, right? But the meat stretching's got to stop. This is bad. This is bad.
You don't like the circle. You don't like the circle plays going on right now.
Oh, this is horrible.
And the first thing he should have said was the courts didn't look at the evidence.
That's all he had to say. I don't know why he didn't say that. He knows the evidence is out there. You look at Georgia, you look at Arizona, they have came back and said there was fraud.
Georgia actually came out and said that for real, because I don't remember hearing that.
Absolutely. I've shown it plenty of times on this goddamn channel.
Yep. Georgia, Tennessee, even Michigan.
Absolutely. Yeah. Even
Arizona, Texas.
A lot of states have came back and showed fraud. I don't know why we're playing this game. I don't know why he's scared to bring that shit up. Just hit him with the fucking actual facts. And you have nothing to worry about. Nothing. Stop being scared to say this shit to this. Oh, it meat stretching each other. Can I get
how
a
did they say? Just to tell my ignorance out, how did they say it was fraud?
What'd you say?
How did they say it was fraud? How did they show it was fraud? What did they say to prove it?
They showed all the doubles and fucking batches of fucking votes that had no name on them, some that did have a name on them, some that were ran through the exact same way with the same signature, the same everything, that was actually ran through almost 20 times. So yes, it's been proven that there's been fraud. They showed physical evidence, they showed video evidence, they showed a lot of shit.
Okay.
It's not new. It's just the point that these motherfuckers are scared to tell the truth. It's crazy to me. It's literally insane. Just say it. And you don't even got to go that far. All you would have to tell them is they would turn down before they can even be seen, because they would have to literally sue before the election. That's all they have to say. That's all he has to say. He would have to sue before the election. That's it. And it's done. Because it was turned down on the merits or standing. They didn't have any standing. Standing, yeah. So they never saw any evidence to begin with. You don't know what meat stretching is, Christy? Come on now. Christy says you don't know what meat stretching is. Jesus Christ. They never saw the evidence. So it was turned down before it was even brought to them. So this whole question of goddamn, did he win the election? Who cares? We know he won. Who technically won the fucking election, because his dumb ass in office not doing nothing for the people. So I don't. This is horrible. Why I don't like him. He's trying to agree on more shit, and they're trying to have a fucking conversation. Bitch, have a conversation after this shit. No one wants to see that shit. God damn, it's just another fucking Republican letdown, dog. This is all I see. Another Republican fucking letdown. This is crazy.
Welcome back to the CBS News Vice Presidential Debate. It is now time for the closing statement. Senator Vance won the virtual coin toss and elected to go last. So, Governor Walz, you are first. You have 2 minutes.
Well, thank you, Senator Vance. Thank you to CBS News. And most importantly, thank you to all of you. If you're still up and the folks who miss Dancing with Our Stars, I appreciate it. But look, the support of the democracy matters. It matters that you're here. And I'm as surprised as anybody of this coalition that Kamala Harris has built, from Bernie Sanders to Dick Cheney to Taylor Swift, and a whole bunch of folks in between there. And they don't all agree on everything, but they are truly optimistic people. They believe in a positive future of this country, and one where
Dick Cheney's optimistic,
better than it is. And I have to tell you that that better than it is the sense of optimism that there can be an opportunity economy that works for everyone, not just to get by, but to get ahead. And the idea that freedom really means something, not the freedom of government to be in your bedroom or exam room, but the freedom for you to make choices about yourself. Now, look, we all know who Donald Trump is. He's told us, and as Maya Angelou said, believe him when he told you that. His first inaugural address talked about American carnage, and then he spent 4 years trying to maybe do that. Senator Vance tonight made it clear he will stand with Donald Trump's agenda. He will continue to push down that road. Excuse me. Kamala Harris gives us a different option. Now, I'll have to tell you, I'm going to be careful about the quotes, but there's one that Senator Vance said that does resonate with me. He said, Donald Trump makes the people I care about afraid. A lot of America feels that way. We don't need to be afraid. Franklin Roosevelt was right. All we have to fear is fear itself. Kamala Harris is bringing us a new way forward. She's bringing us a politics of joy. She's bringing real solutions for the middle class, and she's centering you at the heart of that. All the while asking everyone, join this movement, make your voices heard. Let's look for a new day where everybody gets that opportunity and everybody gets a chance to thrive. I humbly ask for your vote on November 5th for Kamala Harris.
Governor Walz, thank you. Senator Vance, your closing statement.
Well, I want to thank Governor Walz, you folks at CBS, and of course the American people for tuning in this evening. And one of the issues we didn't talk about was energy. And I remember when I was being raised by my grandmother, when she didn't have enough money to turn on the heat some nights because Ohio gets pretty cold at night and because money was often very tight. And I believe, as a person who wants to be your next vice president, that we are a rich and prosperous enough country where every American, whether they're rich or poor, ought to be able to turn on their heat in the middle of a cold winter night. That's gotten more difficult thanks to Kamala Harris's energy policies. I believe that whether you're rich or poor, you ought to be able to afford a nice meal for your family. That's gotten harder because of Kamala Harris's policies. I believe that whether you're rich or poor, you ought to be able to afford to buy a house. You ought to be able to live in safe neighborhoods. You ought to not have your communities flooded with fentanyl. And that too has gotten harder with because of Kamala Harris's policies. Now, I've been in politics long enough to do what Kamala Harris does when she stands before the American people and says that on day one, she's going to work on all these challenges I just listed. She's been the vice president for 3.5 years. Day one was 1,400 days ago, and her policies have made these problems worse. Now, I believe that we have the most beautiful country in the world. I meet people on the campaign trail who can't afford food, but have the grace and generosity to ask me how I'm doing and to tell me they're praying for my family. What that has taught me is that we have the greatest country, the most beautiful country, the most incredible people anywhere in the world. But they're not going to be able to achieve their full dreams with the broken leadership that we have in Washington. They're not going to be able to live their American dream if we do the same thing that we've been doing for the last 3.5 years. We need change. We need a new direction. We need a president who has already done this once before and did it well. Please vote for Donald Trump. And whether you vote for me or vote for Tim Walz, I just want to say I'm so proud to be doing this, and I'm rooting for you. God bless you, and good night.
Senator Vance, thank you. And thank you both for participating in the only vice presidential debate of this election cycle. I'm Margaret Brennan.
And I'm Nora O'Donnell. And a reminder, there are just 35 days until Election Day. Please get out and vote. And for all of us here at CBS News, thank you and good night.
First and only vice presidential debate. This election is now complete. It was a cordial debate of the kind that people mostly say they want. You notice here the two candidates lingering on the stage.
That's shit.
That's quite a difference from the presidential debate, in which was not even sure that vice president.
I don't know if y'all hear me, but Con Charter said Vance did okay, but a little Ned Flanders like.
Said about Finland was one of the many ways in which Senator Vance agreed with the governor. The governor agreed right back. But that's the tone and the kind of
being civil. He probably pulled in independent voters
on the question of the
no, he did, Mayo.
The Middle East and the
probably being civil
surprises that hit any president. Tim Walz made the case that Donald Trump's temperament is unfit for any kind of surprise. Cited members of the Trump administration who have attested to that. Vance came back and said there were no wars during the Trump administration. On the economy, I'll make a political point, which is that what Vance did was something Donald Trump was incapable of doing during his presidential debate, which is repeatedly saying, if Kamala Harris was going to do these things, why didn't she in office? Now, whether voters buy that or not, Tim Walz mentioned the
did say that.
Inflation Reduction Act and a variety of
We said it.
other items under Biden. But returning to that political point has worked in the past for Donald Trump against Hillary Clinton. We'll see if it works this time. I'd like to make a final point on tone. The J.D. Vance on that stage was very different than what people may have seen in podcasts. But then there was an air of unreality about it. He talked about bipartisan solutions with nuance of a kind we never saw during the Trump administration. He talked about Donald Trump almost as the defender of the Affordable Care Act. Donald Trump tried to kill the Affordable Care Act. And then I think at the very end of the debate, we saw something extraordinary. Tim Walz asked J.D. Vance if Donald Trump lost the election. He was incapable of answering that simple yes/no question. J.D. Vance can only get so far from the man at the top of the ticket, and that was on display in that one moment, although J.D. Vance was a different kind of person than we've seen in many instances.
John, I think what you're saying is so important when we talk about demeanor, because of the expectation that was hanging over these candidates' heading into tonight. J.D. Vance came to the stage with the lowest likability rating of all four candidates at the top of the ticket. And I think many people came in expecting him to be Donald Trump's attack dog tonight. That's not the side we saw from him. There was a couple of compassionate moments even. You mentioned the word cordiality. We saw that from him very much. I also think it's worth pointing out the demeanor we saw from Governor Walz, particularly when it came to his moments where he was put on the defensive about his own biography and embellishments that he has made in the past, particularly in this case on China. You and I have talked about this a lot coming into this evening. Major, you're going to help us with fact checks over the course of the next few minutes. But there is a big one that we need to talk about at the top of it, which came on immigration in the discussion tonight, and particularly the Trump administration's plan, a major centerpiece of their campaign to undergo mass deportations for undocumented immigrants in this country. J.D. Vance particularly said that migrants will be granted legal status at the wave of a Kamala Harris open border one. This was in the conversation, this ongoing conversation about Haitian migrants in Springfield, Ohio. Many of them are recipients of temporary legal status, and you just have to say, John, that they are in this country legally.
All right.
Oh,
We'll
wow.
be right back
You
in a
said
moment with more
something so
coverage of the vice
profound.
presidential debate, and we'll fact check some of the claims made by both candidates.
Holy shit.
But that is waving the magic wand, because they got here under false pretenses.
Absolutely. That's why I said
Well,
she
yes, and before your CBP1 application had to be approved by a human being, not an app.
When you wake up in the morning, we want to be your go-to.
Hey.
Nate has one of the quick.
This shit made me want to get offline. This shit was horrible.
I mean, to do a CBP1 now, you don't even need a fucking ID.
Let's see what these motherfuckers are talking about.
Just got better. CBS
That's the same
Mornings
people.
week-
That's the same people. Never mind. Who do I want to watch? Where's Fox at? Jesus. Let's see what the hell they're saying on Fox. They're probably licking his scrotum right now.
Why do everybody want to see everybody be so cordial and nice and considerate now?
I don't understand it. My motherfucking self.
It's like,
Because
what's
most people
wrong?
will avoid conflict.
What's wrong with challenging somebody's argument and then just going at it? It's you if you're trying to get to the truth, just go at it.
Okay, that didn't work. Oh man, I don't know, man. I'm
Like Tom want all kids to sell drugs. Just go at it.
That's a fact.
Brandon, you said you felt like Vance was just saying that what were your words? That he was saying things that people wanted to hear?
It sounded like he was saying things that people wanted to hear. He sounds like he was trying to be more human. This does not necessarily align to what he said before, in my opinion.
And you said that
You're a
now
fag.
you are feeling a little more certain about going with Harris. Am I reading that right?
Yes, now it's October 1st. I think it's irresponsible to have this much uncertainty coming out of either side. Vance did nothing. He did not answer the question for me. And he made a lot of connections that weren't really there for me.
Claire, we were talking a lot afterwards about childcare. because there was that whole section toward the end of the debate about childcare, and you're really involved in this as a member of the community here. You're a mom. You're involved in policy discussions. So what was your take on that?
Thanks, Kate, and thanks for NBC for having us. But I was really interested in just like, again, I feel like we're looking at two men telling like us what women are going to do, and I'm still not there. You know, I still feel like we need more representation. We need more of who I want to see. We need more people who can break down systemic differences that stop our government for either party being able to make effective policy. So after tonight, I still feel like a
like
little
them pesky
unwary
fucking
about
amendments
exactly
to the
who I will be
Constitution.
voting for, and if I will be voting at all.
If you will be voting at all. Oh, you know, I'm sure both sides, both of those men.
Because that's how you solve the issue. You don't vote.
John.
Just want to add to that point. Again, we have two men discussing issues that are, have to do with women's rights and whatnot.
Oh,
But
shut up,
let's
you
not forget
cuck.
How many fucking fags do they got to interview? This is
The
crazy.
person at the top of the ticket for the Democrats is a woman, and she has a lot to say, which maybe that will help.
And we know that you support Harris. John, I know quickly you also said the economic plans cost a lot more than you expected.
Yeah, I was surprised to hear the price number that the Wharton School of Business attributed to Kamala's plan. But then when I heard that Trump's plan was 3 times that, I was pretty much shocked with that number.
Rona, you were considering voting for Trump now?
I didn't learn anything in this debate that kind of helped me reach a conclusion. I was really happy with both of their answers about Israel at the very beginning. But I had a crazy day today. I started this morning interviewing Aviva Siegel, former hostage whose husband, Keith Siegel, an American, is still held hostage in Gaza, along with another 6 Americans and over 100 others. And no one addressed that at all. No one addressed rising anti-Semitism on college campuses. I have more homework to do. Thanks.
I'm afraid we're out of time. Thank you all so much for sitting with us.
Oh, these are meat days.
Fascinating, Kate. Enjoyed the conversation.
All right, let's go back to Tom Yamas. He's in the spin room. Have you been spun, Tom?
Yeah, I can't do it. Shut the fuck up, bitches. This came up yet? Nope. But no.
Just go up and pick all the lives, Tom.
Janine Pirro, co-host of The Five.
Oh, no, that's not it. That's not it.
About his comments that were misleading about his time in China during the Tiananmen Square protests, that he called himself a knucklehead and that he misspoke. Republicans are going very hard over that. Democrats are saying that the lies that the Vance campaign and the Trump campaign say are
Just
nowhere
like his
in comparison
military
to that.
career,
We're also hearing a bigger debate
his
right now
IVF.
about immigration. It sounds like both sides are fighting over immigration, what Vance said and what Walz said about their immigration plans, and who's to blame over the immigration crisis right now at the border and how it's changing. So I think we're sort of getting our first salvos in the war post debate and what we're hearing here in the spin room. I also want to note we do see Secret Service in here, which leads us to believe that at least one of the 2 candidates who debated tonight.
Oh, bitch, shut up. No one cares. Fucking, I just, ugh. This is horrible. Let's go live. Let's see who's live. Oh, let's look at Blade.
To give them permission to say, you're right, Trump's right.
Can we watch a little of
Just
this clip that he was just describing? Here is the opening statement from J.D. Vance.
I want to answer the question, but I want to actually give an introduction to myself a little bit because I recognize a lot of Americans don't know who either one of us are. I was raised in a working class family. My mother required food assistance for periods of her life. My grandmother required Social Security help to raise me, and she raised me in part because my own mother struggled with addiction for a big chunk of my early life. I went to college on the GI Bill after I enlisted in the Marine Corps and served in Iraq. And so I stand here asking to be your vice president with extraordinary gratitude for this country, for the American dream that made it possible for me to live my dreams. And most importantly, I know that a lot of you are worried about the chaos in the world and the feeling that the American dream is unattainable. I want to try to convince you tonight over the next 90 minutes that if we get better leadership in the White House, if we get Donald Trump back in the White House, the American dream is going to be attainable once again.
I will tell you, I think everyone should go home tonight and stream Hillbilly Elegy. Even if you've watched it already, stream it. That thing should be #1 on Netflix this week because that explains who he is, why he's inspirational, what he believes in. This guy is dirt strong. And when you see, I thought it was going to be, okay. It is a tremendous movie that when you watch it would never be made today because of how effective it is in making you go, oh my gosh, this guy's an amazing man.
It's huge Hollywood stars. They would never put Hollywood stars that are that big into a movie about J.D. Vance ever again.
They would never make that movie.
They're just so angry at themselves that they did it right now because it makes him look so good.
Yeah, Stu, to your point about,
If y'all saw that movie yet?
I think that Tim Walz survived. J.D. Vance clearly won, but I do think it's important to point out the stakes were much higher for J.D. Vance because the president, right? Donald Trump is how old? 79, 78. Okay, so the stakes are much higher for the vice president who has the president who is unfortunately in his elderly years.
And you wouldn't have a party like the Democrats that say, no, leave him in there because she's worse.
Right.
That's why we didn't hear anything about his, senility.
Right.
This guy, I would feel comfortable with him replacing the president.
And I think that exactly. And I think that America needed to see that. They needed to see that this person was a palatable person because the likelihood of him potentially replacing Donald Trump is unfortunately much higher than the likelihood of Tim Walz somehow rising, to the top with Kamala Harris.
I think the odds of this is going to be controversial. I think the odds of an assassination of Donald Trump have gone down after this for the left. Because this guy would immediately step up, call for calm, say, we're going through the election.
Well, you have to get there to November 5th first.
Yeah.
You have to make it there first.
I know, but
once you get there,
nobody wants him to be to don't take Trump out. He's our best shot at winning that or losing. That's what they would say.
I think that if I'm a Democrat, I look at that and I'm scared. Like, I'm scared that this guy's probably, the leader.
That's why they had to call them weird from the very beginning. They saw it before many of us did.
Yeah.
Yes.
They also knew Tim Walz was the weird one. So
that's a 12 year.
They always accuse you of
the weird one. Party projection.
All right, remember, FDR was 12 years.
Yeah. There you go.
Plus, can I just say this? If we're going to be controversial, wouldn't it be the most Trump thing ever to win this election?
You're right. I mean, it was like 4 times the amount of money to Ukraine than the border. So I don't know. You call it border bill when it's like, 14 billion. I call it Ukraine bill when it's 60 to 70 billion. But that's me, Mr. Math. So let's go to, they're saying that JD Vance lied. Let's go to our live fact checking. I don't think we have a stinger. Do we? Do we have a fact check stinger?
We have something.
I can find one. All right. Well, we have 6 pages of fact checking. And of course, while he finds that, by the way, and they're still finishing up the fact check, let's, really quickly, because he's there actually down at the debate tonight, really quickly, before we get to the fact check, let's go to our on-the-ground correspondent, Thomas Finnegan. All right, Finnegan, we paid a lot of money. It's debate night in New York. What do you have for us?
Hi, Stephen.
Yeah, so you're in New York, debate night. Are you in a subway? Is that where you?
No, I stopped there for dinner, but now I'm in the Underground Railroad.
No, that's not what it's called. So you missed the debate.
No, I was there. It was actually very interesting to see in person.
Not even funny, sir. Not funny no more. All right.
And thinking about candidates that way. And knowing these candidates, as we do, I mean, they both have been willing to kind of just have no holes barred on the campaign trail and on the stump. And so we figured we'd see that on stage tonight. We did on a couple of different topics, particularly there at the end, talking about democracy and January 6th and transfers of power. But there were a lot of more exchanges between these two of, Senator Vance calling Governor Walz Tim, like every time he talked about him. That's just a level of familiarity, but also kind of a friendliness that I hadn't been anticipating. Again, it's just one event. It's a debate. There were other moments that were more contentious, but yeah, I think your take is spot on. It was a lot more collegial and friendly than I think we had been feeling like we were going to be seeing tonight.
Yeah, so we're watching right now. Looks like the senator is appearing on the Fox News channel with host Sean Hannity there in the spin room, and you see the backs of their heads there. So I wanted to make sure we are showing all of these live pictures there in and around the spin room. In the meantime, Tom, wanted to ask you this. I was expecting more from the candidates themselves on their previous statements on whatever, and on their biographies, the moderators pinning them down more on some of those questions. It was almost 90 plus minutes, barring, here or there a question or two. It was almost 90 plus minutes of them acting as stewards of either Trump or Harris, whoever is at the top of the ticket. Was that to be expected from your vantage point? And this, moniker you hear every time a vice presidential debate happens each and every 4 years, for the running mate to do no harm, the do no harm principle. Was there harm done by Vance or Walz?
No.
Yeah, I don't think it's not going to move any numbers on the ticket. Certainly, look, if the top of the ticket didn't move any numbers, I don't think the undercard's going to move any numbers coming out of this. They're two very different dynamics. Vance has a political future in this Republican Party, this iteration of the Republican Party, and you can see that the way that he kind of played to the camera very often. Walz took a long time to warm up. He was very stiff at the beginning. And he did spend a lot of time attacking Trump, carrying the water for Harris. But really, for both of them, Vance came across more of this culture warrior, like the podcast culture warrior, the protege of Peter Thiel, and Tim Walz just sounded like a governor. I feel like every other answer was talking about his experience as the governor of Minnesota.
Right.
It's like everything. It was really funny.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, I wanted just to play one of these exchanges of Walz really being put to the test, being forced to answer some of these discrepancies in his biography. This was about a trip he made in the 80s to China. Let's listen.
Why does that matter?
Can you explain that discrepancy?
Yeah, well, and to the folks out there who didn't get at the top of this, look, I grew up in small rural Nebraska, town of 400, town that you rode your bike with your buddies till the streetlights come on, and I'm proud of that service. I joined the National Guard at 17, worked on family farms, and
Sir,
used the GI Bill.
Riding your bike with your buddies is a service now.
Passionate about it. A young teacher. My first year out, I got the opportunity in the summer of '89 to travel to China. 35 years ago, be able to do that. I came back home and then started a program to take young people there. We would take basketball teams, we would take baseball teams, we would take dancers, and we would go
recruiting for the Communist Party.
That was to try and learn. Now, look, my community knows who I am. They saw where I was at. Look, I will be the first to tell you, I have poured my heart into my community. I've tried to do the best I can, but I've not been perfect. And I'm a knucklehead at times, but it's always been about that. Those same people elected me to Congress for 12 years. And in Congress, I was one of the most bipartisan people, working on things like farm bills that we got done, working on veterans benefits. And then the people of Minnesota were able to elect me to governor twice. So look, my commitment has been from the beginning to make sure that I'm there for the people, to make sure that I get this right. I will say more than anything. Many times I will talk a lot. I will get caught up in the rhetoric. But being there, the impact it made, the difference it made in my life, I learned a lot about China. I hear the critiques of this. I would make the case that Donald Trump should have come on one of those trips with us. I guarantee you he wouldn't be praising Xi Jinping about COVID. And I guarantee you he wouldn't start a trade war that he ends up losing. So this is about trying to understand the world. It's about trying to Do the best you can for your community. And then it's putting yourself out there and letting your folks understand what it is. My commitment, whether it be through teaching, which I was good at, or whether it was being a good soldier or was being a good member of Congress, those are the things that I think are the values that people care about.
So
Okay,
did he go to China? So did he go to China?
Quite the
You've been to China over
circuitous
30
path
times.
to no, I wasn't in China during the Tiananmen protests in June of 1989. He was there later that summer in August. He must have rehearsed this response. Why did it take him so long to get there?
That's a good question. It definitely did sound like this was something that Tim Walz anticipated he'd be asked about tonight, as did all of us pretty much who were covering this debate and thinking about the topics that we knew would come up. But it seemed like in this answer, Tim Walz was doing a couple of things. One, trying to talk about his time in China and what he learned from it. Also took a swipe at Donald Trump and said that if Donald Trump had been with him and kind of gotten some of the same knowledge, perhaps he would approach China differently. And then also just giving that biopic sort of overview of himself that JD Vance did at the very top in the very intro, in the very first question. He did that kind of step back that a lot of times these VP candidates need to do to really introduce themselves, because this is pretty much, aside from the conventions, this is the biggest national stage that they have singularly before the actual election and before voters are making those choices. So JD Vance opened up with his first opportunity to kind of remind people where he comes from, who he is, a little bit of his biography. Tim Walz didn't do that. And so when he got this question about China, he kind of put it all together in one without ever explicitly saying, yes, I know I either misspoke or I mischaracterized or whatever his answer would have been to that timeline in terms of when he was in China and what exactly was going on while he was there. So it was a little bit of just a whole lot of different things put together that didn't necessarily concisely answer that question. And it looked like JD Vance was kind of looking at him like, okay, where's this going? When you look at that split screen of what was going on with the two of them during that answer.
Yeah, and to your point, I mean, JD Vance, in that very first question he was asked, I mean, he directly acknowledged to the audience that the American people don't know him very well, nor do they know Governor Tim Walz very well. I thought that was quite, forthcoming and transparent on Vance's part there. But Tom, let's go back a little bit to that clip we played about immigration, about the Springfield, Ohio story. The mics were cut. We didn't hear much on Springfield, Ohio.
I literally heard it.
The claims made, especially propounded by Vance on Haitian migrants. Did you anticipate it was going to be brought up more?
Well, Vance struggled with that one. And, again, look, I mean, for a raucous presidential debate just a few
Tom,
weeks ago.
Let me just interject here. We do have Donald Trump Jr. Let's just listen.
Yeah, no one
time of prosperity to a time of poverty. This is a no-brainer. I don't think a debate is going to change that at this point, and certainly not the way it was handled last time, which I think was just honestly disgusting. So, I don't think it makes sense. I think people have to look at where they are. They have to feel, do they feel safer? Do they feel
Nobody wants to hear to the guy that's eating Gavin Newsom's leftovers.
Back that up. We can fix this. My father wants Americans to thrive, not barely survive. They've been barely surviving for the last few years, and it's because of the policies of Kamala Harris. Again, I understand that the media is trying to pretend she's a moderate, magically. In 3 weeks, she became a moderate when she got here.
Okay, that happens in a spin room, happens a lot in the spin room where the camera kind of goes haywire there, of course. Tom, I'll let you finish your thought here on what I just had asked you.
Yeah. So, I mean, Vance really struggled with that one and again, gave a very circuitous answer, broadly speaking, about immigration. Yeah. But it really hits home for him because he is the senator from Ohio. And there were reports that his staff knew that this was incorrect, the statements about the Haitian immigrants in Springfield. He didn't reach out to the mayor there. You got thrashed by the Republican governor, longtime Republican governor in the recent piece, Mike DeWine. So, you talked around it. I mean, you kind of have corollaries there in a sense between Walz, his handling of the Tiananmen Square story, and then Vance not wanting to talk about Springfield, Ohio, in his home state, which he represents.
That's going to have to do it. Meg, final thoughts, though, briefly, your overall kind of impressions. Where does the race go from here? Does it change at all?
I'm not sure that it really does. Oftentimes, these debates don't necessarily move numbers, and I'm not sure that this one will. This is the last debate that we anticipate we're going to get for this entire election season. So we'll see these candidates back out on the trail, but we won't be seeing them on stage going against each other. And we'll see where it goes from here. There are only 30 some odd days left, you guys. So
there's only 3 days left or 34 days? 1 or 2. I think it's 33 days left. Either way it goes, I'm sick of these motherfucking piss poor candidates. Not say nothing that was worth a while. It is what it is. Mayo, you got anything left besides this trash that we just?
Well, Republicans need to stop agreeing to these fucking leftist goddamn moderators.
I'm not disagreeing with that one. I am not disagreeing.
Dude, there was 7 times I counted when she didn't let him get his minute rebuttal.
Mm-hmm.
And then immediately gave him a minute on a totally different question.
Yes, I agree with you on that one. I seen it too. Oh man. Well, they'll never learn. They'll never learn. What's up, Mama? How are you doing today? Did you watch it? Did you catch any parts of the debate, Mama? Chris, I said it before it. Well, before then, it was trash. More lackluster performance. And I get it. He wanted to make it seem like he's so-called whatever the fuck. I don't know. Sometimes you got to do what's called of you. Wasn't be a goddamn pit bull. Don't get there and be a goddamn chihuahua. That shit was. Whew. Sam, you should be glad you didn't watch that shit. More work, absolutely worthless, sir. Absolutely. They let me down once again, like always. They're just meat. It was a whole lot of meat stretching. Oh, I agree with you. I agree with you too. You're such a fundamental person. I love the way you did that. Could you do it again for me, please? Oh my God. Yes, you did make the same prediction last time. Oh, gee. Since you know that your opinion weighs heavily on my heart. What did you think?
I thought it was just like the rest of them you didn't watch.
Mm-hmm.
Just like the rest of them. So good.
It was good to last drop.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh. Sure it was.
What is this, a PD? What is this, a PD party or something?
I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
I don't know what you're talking about. You don't even use baby oil over here.
It's a meat stretching party.
That's what it was.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Everything you think is heavy. Everything you think gonna be heavy in your heart. What are we doing here?
Yes,
absolutely. Yeah. Mama, I thought. Damn it. I knew it. I didn't even have to watch the Trump versus Kamala debate because it was going to be worthless, and I was correct. This one was more of the same. You didn't miss anything. Believe me, you didn't miss a thing.
Oh, good. Yeah, I totally forgot it was tonight.
It was a whole bunch of stretching of meats.
Oh yeah,
a lot of good misinformation that was prone to give to it, but you know.
It was a lot of misinformation. It wasn't even misinformation. I wouldn't say. I would just say it was a whole bunch of bullshit. I'll say that.
They usually are.
It wasn't even a smoke show, baby. It'll be different if they had smoke for each other. They didn't have smoke for each other. Oh yeah, they definitely blew smoke up each other's ass. That's a fact. That's a fact. They damn sure did that shit.
They stretched that meat tonight, boy.
It was. Woo, Mama. It was,
sir.
It was magnificent.
Yeah, it was exactly what we expected. Smart people talk. That's what I thought it was gonna be. I said when I first came in, them niggas was smart.
Them niggas just
Well,
smart.
They're both such good and gentle men, you know.
That's a fact.
Oh, at least that's what the fuck we saw. They're
And
both
was good conduct.
honest.
And they got good conduct too.
Did they sing Kumbaya?
Diedrich, it's still mine. Pay it.
Did they sing Kumbaya?
Did they? They might as well fucking started a goddamn fire, brought up the s'mores, talked about old camping stories and shit.
I think they're just giving each other hand jobs in the back.
I was thinking to ask her, were they talking about swapping old girlfriends?
Nah, it wasn't that serious, Mom. It was just serious to the point that admiration was real.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I see.
I didn't hear one homonym spit tonight. That was crazy. This was special.
It's special, huh?
Don't you shut your ass up.
Like special.
No. This was special. It was a lot being called out, Mama. You just go back and look at it. You gonna love it.
Yeah, I will.
That shit was
I
crazy.
will.
Oh my god, it was ass, man.
Just know one thing.
I predicted a bloodbath, and it was a goddamn paper cut with a motherfucker swallowed.
No, sir. No, sir. Sir, that was the puppy section at the fucking pet store.
God damn, you know when a puppy bites you and you might bleed a little bit. That's what that shit was. That shit was horrible.
Well, let me ask you these couple of questions. This is gonna solve me up for the night. The first question I got for y'all is, do you think that one of them is going to be better than what we got right now?
What do you mean? Explain a little bit more.
The person who's in job right now is not going to be in job anymore. She's going to be president. So one of them is going to take the space. I just didn't want to throw it out there. You ain't got no choice, but one of them is going to be your vice.
Absolutely.
Okay. So are you happy with that?
No.
And do you see a change is coming between what we have now and what they're going to become, what they're going to do? Because
listen, I'm like I said before, it's going to be more of the same bullshit.
You're welcome. Enjoy.
More the same bullshit.
That's what I thought. They ain't say nothing different. It's still gonna be the same way it is now.
Yeah, it was a bubble bath where they were stretching each other.
OG, was your questions asking would the vice president you want to be better than the president?
No,
okay,
sir.
All right.
What I'm asking you, you know what she's doing right now. Y'all don't like her right now. So do you think one of them dudes, because one of them is going to be your vice?
Absolutely. I'm agreeing with that one.
Do you think they're going to do a better job than her?
Potato all they want.
Oh, I actually think, okay, now, although he didn't show it tonight, I think JD Vance would be a better vice president than Kamala would be.
Man, get the fuck.
Hold on.
Who's stretching me? Huh?
It's the fuck.
So
I don't want today, boy.
I gotta tell you. I just said, John, you stretching me, son. If you think these niggas, if you think one of them is gonna do, bro? Did you hear this conversation we just heard?
I heard the conversation. But I'm not going. Okay, the question was, do I think that JD or Walz would be a better vice president than Kamala?
Uh-huh.
And we're going by just this conversation tonight?
Uh-huh.
Yes,
okay.
Man.
Yeah, you said okay, then I see your point then. If you saying just this conversation tonight. So
It'd been better if he would have just mopped him across the floor, but he had so much respect for him,
the
admiration and friendship.
Kingdom, the names did come up. They gave a couple of last names, and one of them they gave the first and last. But they didn't give the true backstory and what happened. It was just fluffed in there like it absolutely happened, and not to tell the fucking truth, because not one place in this United States of America did anyone face any goddamn criminal charges for doing what they had to do to save that woman's life. Women's life.
Right.
That was bullshit.
And my last question for y'all: was them niggas friends?
Oh, absolutely. They were.
Okay. I was
Yeah,
just making sure. You know, I was just-
Well, I am deeply, deeply regretful that I missed the Mutual Admiration show.
That's exactly what it was. Mutual admiration. Kingdom Light, I'm with you. Byron or Vivek would have been a better choice in my thing. At least Vivek has a backbone, a little bit. At least he can fake it. At least I don't know if what he would have did when he got in the goddamn debate, but this was sad, dog. This is why I'm not a Republican, because it takes more to sway me, and that shit did not. Listen, I feel like voting for Kamala Harris right now.
You gonna do that anyway? I don't know what you're talking about.
That's a fact. Let's get this money, baby.
Do the same thing I did last year.
OG
Well, it
going with
wasn't
Baby TT, and you going with Kamala.
Shit, I ain't even vote for her. I don't even know what we're talking about.
That's what I said. That wasn't even they couldn't fucking talk about. Only
You can't even catch that shit. Yeah. Okay, that did last year was nothing. So.
Yeah, God.
It is gonna be the same. What we doing there?
This is sad, man. I'm getting, what is it, 11:30? I'm going to bed. I stayed up for this bullshit again. God. Yeah, that shit. I gotta go, man. What's tomorrow? This just got me.
It's Wednesday, sir. It's Wednesday.
Oh God.
Conspiracy.
I don't even have any conspiracies, man. You sent me one, right? Or did you send me one for Tuesday?
You said what now?
No. I think Mayo sent me one for Tuesday.
What?
You sent me a video for Tuesday.
I didn't send you anything specific for any day, sir.
No, you said next week. That's all you said on it.
Oh, that was our one of our favorite judges in Texas throwing a chick in jail for wearing shorts.
Yeah, I just read that. Well, okay. Well, yeah, we can do that tomorrow. The supply chain management shit. It's a lot.
No, that was for Sunday, sir. Look at when I sent.
No, I was talking about what Kingdom Mind said. We can go over that. We can go over. I don't know. Jesus Christ.
I'm still recommending that. I'm missing the show this week, and I need that back.
You need that back? Shit, me too. You know what? Let's do it. You know what? We're gonna do cops explaining tomorrow. God damn it!
They can't run from the W now. That's one thing we ain't gonna do. We gotta have that W at least one time a week. Might get W's. I might get W's all else through the week, but I'm gonna give me a W on Tuesday.
Okay, because OG wants to. He missed out on this Tuesday, almost 3 weeks in a row.
I ain't seen nobody get shot today. Nobody get put in handcuffs. I gotta see something. Like,
all right, yeah, we'll do that tomorrow because this is sick. Yeah, it's sickening, man. Damn it, man! I'm just a. You know what? Thank y'all for coming out here. We're gonna do what we do on Tuesday tomorrow. This was a whole let the fuck down. I should have just. You know what? I had high expectations. I even took time to make a thumbnail and shit. No.
Yeah, that's trash.
Yeah, God. All right, y'all. Thank y'all for coming out. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Peace. This was horrible.